California Collegiate League action between the visiting Santa Barbara Foresters and your hosting Arroyo Seco Saints. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mitchell Fave, joined with me this evening by Matt Berner and Tyler Roop. Guys, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Can't complain, except for the fact that it's hot.
It's a little
so I
too
guess
hot.
I can complain.
It's a little too hot.
A little toasty out here. But hey, you know what? We've been complaining all year long, or rather, I should say all summer long, about the June gloom. When was the sun going to come out? And you know what? I think the sun's making us eat our words right now.
So the records of these two teams, the Santa Barbara Foresters, they are 18-6 in league play, 20-7 overall. The Saints 13-12 in league play, 14-12 overall, coming in just a day after the CCL All-Star Game, where we saw multiple players from both teams playing actually together on they were the Nationals in that ball game. They ended up winning, I believe it was a final score of 5-1. Saw a sac fly from Andy Garriola. Thomas Lovano picked up a couple base hits himself. Some good pitching outings from Matt Garza and Colin King, and I believe Cade Bullinger as well. But back to regular CCL action. Again, they're facing off this afternoon. The Foresters are in first place in the California Collegiate League. The Saints sitting at third place, and the top three teams will end up going on to the CCL playoffs at the end of the month. And as we get things underway with the first pitch, in for a called strike one from Alex Cornwell. Cornwell has made a couple appearances on the season. He's thrown 10 innings with a 2.7 ERA. He's allowed 3 earned runs, has struck out 15 batters and walked 5.
And Jacob Wyeth is a little shaken up after a foul tip hit him in the mask. It looked like he just wasn't expecting the batter to take a swing there. The batter, Drew Baker, leading things off for the Foresters. Coming up this inning, you'll also see Nick Bellafronto, the DH, and Christian Franklin, the center fielder. After this at-bat, we'll give you the rest of the lineup for the Foresters.
So after the umpire going out to talk things over with Cornwell while Wyeth shakes off that foul ball, we get back for the 0-2 pitch. Fastball just taken outside. Good spot.
Cornwell, we talked about one of our more solid pitchers. ERA under 3, one of, I believe, 6 Saints.
Weak grounder over to third, fielded by Cowley. Saw him throw to first, not in time as Pete Durkee had his foot just off the base while he tried to stretch to make that play. I think if he kept his foot on, call could have gone the other way.
I think he actually kept his toes on the bag there. Either way, I'm pretty sure that Baker beat that one out. Regardless, Baker's on board with a leadoff single, infield single, and the Foresters are moving. So anyways, as I promised, the starting lineup for the Foresters, now it's Nick Bellafronto, the DH at the plate, Christian Franklin following him, the center fielder, then Zach Presno, the first baseman, Ross Cadena, the catcher, Blake Hall, the left fielder, Connor McKenna, the third baseman, batting 7th, Tevin Tucker, the shortstop, batting 8th, and Ryan Cash, the second baseman, rounding things off.
Pick off to first base before he delivers the first pitch. The rest of the defensive alignment for the Saints, so again, Cornwell on the mound. His battery mate is Jacob Wyeth. Over at first base, Pete Durkee. At second base, you got Wyatt Stapp. Jason Gonzalez manning the hot corner at third. A big swing and a miss from Bellafronto. Drew Cowley's at shortstop, and the outfielders from left to right, Evan Russell, Christian Scott, and Andy Garriola. Seeing Garriola back in the field since he's been the designated hitter for quite a few games.
Yeah, it's exciting. I think the last 2 games we called, he was DHing. I know he DH'd most of the games. I'm very interested to see how he plays in the outfield. Haven't seen that since early in the season.
And one of the games Matt and I called early on, he was playing left field, showing off his cannon of an arm a few times.
Yeah, I remember that when he ended up saving a couple runs, and then by the end of that game, the opposing team was afraid to run.
So 0-2 to Bellafronto.
Belafronto batting .280 on the season. 6 RBI, 20 total bases. So one of the many solid hitters.
And Belafronto is going into his 5th year. He's going to be a redshirt senior at Stanford University. He's from San Jose, California, 6'1", 215. Now he's looking to keep the line moving as Baker reached on a single before him.
Another 0-2 delivery curveball does not catch the low part of the zone, 1-2. Cornwell has a pretty deceptive move to the plate. He's picked off Baker at first a couple times. In the previous pitch, he delivered home, but Baker was jumping all the way back to first. He thought he was going to get picked off, and he goes, but there is a pickoff. The throw down to second base is in time. So good pickoff move from Cornwell. Good timing on it. Gets Baker trying to take second.
I imagine with especially with a lefty on the mound, and them seeing that move, unlike, I believe the Barons, the Oaks, they all have players who typically try to steal on us. I imagine that today it won't be nearly as much of a stolen-based threat.
1-2 pitch misses, evens up the count at 2. Cornwell back in the windup, again as he picked off Baker. Fly ball into center field. Christian Scott is camped under it, makes the one-handed grab, and there's 2 outs.
Well, good piece of hitting there by Belafronto. Just got a little bit too far underneath the ball, but he still gave it a ride. I mean, it's not the deepest part of the ballpark in center field, but he still hit it about 340. Made Scott track back a little bit deep center field. Regardless, there's 2 down now with Christian Franklin coming to the plate.
First pitch misses. Christian Franklin, 5'11", 180 pounds. He will be a sophomore at Arkansas.
Yeah, another dangerous hitter, 324. 2 home runs, 2 triples. Seems like a 5-tool player.
2-0 fastball misses high. And it's a 3-0 count.
It's not often you see a center fielder batting third either.
That's
a speedy guy.
That's when you know you have someone special.
A 4-pitch walk to Christian Franklin. So some more speed on the base pass as Zach Presno, the first baseman for the Foresters, steps into the box.
Well, my guess is Cornwell and Wyeth must have read the scouting report on that one. None of those pitches were supposed to be in the strike zone. They wanted to either force him to chase high or just give him the free bag. And that's another sign of respect for Christian Franklin, the center fielder.
And Tyler mentioned having quite a few extra base hits, and he's only done that in 9 games. So 2 home runs, 2 triples, and a double, and 11 RBI in just nine games this summer.
Wow. Wow.
It's dangerous. He might take off.
1-0 pitch. It's a fastball that misses high and outside to the cleanup hitter.
And once again, that lefty delivery, it's always hard to get a read on a lefty, but Cornwell has an especially good move. And it even had Franklin backtracking on that pitch.
Yeah, Franklin only has 1 stolen base, caught stealing twice, but only 9 games, so.
Ground ball up the middle. Stapp had him played perfectly. Bobbles the play, but tosses on over to Cowley. There's a little glove flip. Gets Franklin, and that retires the side. Santa Barbara gets 4 batters to the plate. 1 reaches base with a base hit. Another with a walk. They leave 1 man stranded, and we head to the bottom of the first. It's a scoreless ball game. Back at Jackie Robinson Memorial Field for the bottom half of the first inning, Christian Scott will be leading things off for the Saints. He is facing Jake Jackson on the mound for the Foresters.
And you mentioned Christian Scott leading things off in center field. Following him will be Evan Russell in left, then Drew Cowley at short, Andy Garriola in that cleanup hole, the 4 spot in right field, Jason Gonzalez at third, Pete Durkay at first, Jacob Wyeth batting 7th, playing catcher, Nick Pagan getting that designated hitter role in the 8 spot, and Wyatt Stapp rounding things off in the 9 hole at second base.
Jake Jackson, their pitcher, second most innings pitched for the Foresters at 21. 2.14 ERA. I believe one of 13 Foresters pitchers to have an ERA under 3. So definitely one of their strengths. Those are wild numbers. We have 6 under 3.
They have a stacked pitching rotation, that's for sure. Second pitch swinging, chopper up the middle, and that'll get through for a base hit. Christian Scott leading things off with a single.
Now batting.
And he does his job. The leadoff man is supposed to get on board. He gets on board just like Drew Baker did. Of course, Baker ended up getting picked off by Cornwell's move over there to first. So we'll see if Scott is more successful on the base pass for the Saints than Baker was for the Foresters.
The one advantage Scott would have, though, is that Jake Jackson is not a lefty. First pitch, curveball, misses low.
Much harder to get picked off by a right-handed pitcher.
I think when you have a dominant pitcher like this, against an entire dominant pitching staff, really, it's times like this you want to steal. So I'd be looking for Scott to be moving. Oh.
Line drive gets over a leaping McKenna at third base. Scott will move up to second, and Russell picks himself up his own single. Russell, playing in the CCL All-Star game last night, scored himself a run.
One of 8 Saints, I believe, to be selected for the All-Star game. Were you guys able to watch it?
I did watch a few innings.
It was a fun time. Cool to see all you guys on TV. It aired on Fox Sports West.
First pitch, tried to backdoor him with the slider. Misses outside. So 1-0 to Drew Cowley. Saints threatening early with a runner on second and nobody out. Cowley batting over 300 this season in 18 games.
Well, we mentioned wanting to be aggressive on the base pass, and the Saints focus on that. I don't think we're going to see either runner steal here, you know.
I was about to suggest a double steal.
Well, with a lefty at the plate and nobody out, don't want to make the first out at third.
Exactly.
Ball is fouled off, gets off the inside of the umpire's leg. He's walking things off. Might be a minute or two until action resumes. Actually, umpire says he's good to go.
It's a tough man behind the plate right there. I'm sure that'll bruise a bit.
Showing off where he got hit, but he puts his mask back on. Says to Drew Cowley, step back in the box, and we will resume action. So 2-1 count to Cowley. Skies that one into shallow left field. That'll get into foul territory. And Blake Hall thought he had the catch, but tips off his glove and lands into foul territory. So Cowley getting a second chance as that error from Blake Hall keeps him alive.
Yeah, it was fouled down there by our relief pitchers are down by the bullpen. They were hollering at him a little bit after he dropped that, as our team usually does. We're known for those dugout yells.
Saints definitely are a chirpy team. They've been warned plenty of times by umpires. So the 2-2 pitch, another foul ball. This one, no chance of getting caught.
Well, going back to the chirping comment, both the Riptide and the Saints have been known to voice their opinions throughout baseball games, and that's part of what led to
Pick off
those.
to second. That ball gets into center field, and both runners will advance. Franklin Center kind of bobbling it. Christian Scott thought about rounding third, heading home, but he stays at third. So both runners get to move up a base. Now 2 men in scoring position for Cali.
That's a good heads-up play by Scott. Popping up after diving in towards second base, realizing the ball got past him, and of course testing Franklin, who, if he fielded that one properly the first time, it would have probably been a clean, close play at third base, but Scott's got a lot of speed, so you can't afford to bobble.
Curveball line down the right field line. That's a fair ball. Russell will round third. He will score standing. Cali racing into second, and he slides in safely with a 2 RBI double.
Beautiful job for the speedy runners on base to get in the pitcher's head a little bit. Make him throw over the second, advance the runners. Nice pitch. Was able to score both of them. Beautiful baseball.
And going back to that error from the pitcher on the pickoff, if he makes a clean throw, it's first and second, and then that double only scores 1.
Yeah, it definitely would have meant that Russell would have had a harder time coming home, for sure. He would have had to go from first to home, and, you know, we haven't seen too much of this Foresters team, but given their prowess in the win column as well as with their batting averages and their ERAs, everything with this team seems to click. I can imagine their outfielders have some decent arms.
So Andy Garriola stepping in, one of the Saints' top power hitters, I should say their premier power hitter in this lineup. Partook in the CCL Home Run Derby back on Tuesday, and also is tied for the lead in the CCL in terms of home runs with 4. Smacks that one into the right center gap. That'll one-hop the wall. Cowley rounds third, and he'll score easily. Garriola racing into second. He's picked himself up a standing RBI double.
Yeah, we've seen him rip it into the right center field gap multiple times. That's his sweet spot. You would think if you're an outfielder, you shade over there a bit more, knowing that, but they just didn't want to risk it.
Well, it's hard to predict that because you mentioned he does hit to right center field a whole lot, but he's also very talented at hitting it right back through the pitcher. You know, we've seen plenty of singles and doubles just go straight to dead center. Guy is fantastic at turning around a baseball and sending it right back.
And so with 4 straight base hits to start the inning, and the infield having their own meeting on the mound, the Saints have jumped out to a 3-0 lead. Nobody out.
Yeah, you know how important the Christian Scott single was. Because if he didn't get on, move over to second, make the pitcher pick off because of his speed, then went into center field, riled the pitcher a bit, and then, 3 back-to-back hits? 2 back-to-back, maybe?
Well, all 4 have been
That's
consecutive.
true. 4 consecutive hits.
So Jason Gonzalez now ready to face Jackson. As he takes that first pitch, fastball and for a strike. Again, Gonzalez, one of the newer guys to the Saints roster, only just started last week. As he finally came home from a College World Series winning season at Vanderbilt. Check swing, but it doesn't matter. It's a called strike 2.
Now Jackson's got him down 0-2, but if I was struggling on the mound, this is not the batter I'd want to see come to the plate. This guy just won a national championship. Now he's playing in the CCL, and Jackson's yet to record an out.
Fastball gets in the dirt and behind Cadena at the plate, and Garriola will move up to third base.
These are the sorry.
Go ahead.
These are the times you really have to calm down because everything that could go wrong is going wrong for this pitcher. Wild pitches, errors, gappers. He really needs to bear down, get this strikeout.
Now, speaking of the wild pitch, it's something we briefly mentioned to each other before the broadcast started. The Major League Baseball trying to implement new rules as that curveball just misses outside, 2-2. So what Major League Baseball does, they think of, possible rule changes, and they let the Atlantic League implement them for a couple years to get some feedback. And one of the new rules that started was a batter being able to steal first on a wild pitch at any point in the count.
Yeah, that was implemented today, which, if you ask my opinion on it, I'm not too fond of the rule change, but of course, we haven't seen it in action. We haven't seen the statistics to bounce from it. It could end up being a very impactful rule change.
I personally think it is a dumb decision, a dumb rule. I'll say it straight up. That curveball also just misses. It's a full count to Gonzalez. Now, I understand, there's the drop third strike rule where a batter can reach first base, but I kind of understand that as a pitcher with 2 strikes, you're taking the risk of trying to bury a curveball or something to get the guy swinging. But I feel, if it's a 1-0 count, maybe kind of a pitch gets away from you and it gets behind the plate, and as a result, the batter gets to reach first base. I think it's a bit unfair. I do not like the new rule.
We're a little bit of traditionalists, though.
That is totally fair.
I'm sure there are a bunch of people out there that are excited about it because it could bring faster offense to the game in a game where a lot of young people see too much defense.
Curveball and another foul from Jason Gonzalez.
There's no doubt it will be impactful if it ever was put in place. But the MLB has already seen the most home runs hit. Last year they broke a record. This year they're on pace to break the same record. So the fact that there's any argument of any lack of offense, I think is ridiculous. But I would have to agree with you too.
Curveball gets Gonzalez swinging, and he goes back to the dugout as the first out. So after 5 batters, Jackson on the mound finally retiring one of the Saints.
And that's got to be a huge confidence booster. Finally getting an out, and not only getting an out, it was a strikeout which kept Garriola standing there at third base. Meaning the score remains 3-0.
And it was also one of those tough at-bats. Gonzalez was fouling off quite a few pitches. And so for the pitcher to win that battle, again, like you said, a good confidence booster.
It's a very small strike zone today for both teams. We've seen a couple of those curveballs in that last at-bat to Gonzalez miss by what I thought found the corner of the plate, but must have missed by maybe an inch or two, and that one pretty close to the plate once again.
That backdoor curveball does catch the strike zone. It's a 1-1 count. Now that leads right into one of the other rule changes that Major League Baseball has sent to the Atlantic League to try and test out, and that is robotic umpires. There's still a home plate umpire behind the plate, but they are fed, and there's a computer watching the game, watching each pitch, and it'll relay to the home plate umpire what pitch or what call the pitch should be.
Yeah, the umpires have like a Bluetooth headset on or an earpiece in their ear that tells them ball or strike, but the umpire has the power that determines whether or not to overturn the call. So if the umpire truly thinks that, hey, you know what, that pitch found the strike zone, he could call it a strike even if the computer calls it a ball.
It seems like with that, they're just trying to please everybody and in turn pleasing nobody by the traditionalists saying, oh, the human aspect. We like the human aspect. They're trying to keep that, but also pleasing new people with technology. But to be honest, that seems like a mistake.
I feel like you should go all the way. Either don't make the change or go all the way to completely computer strike zones.
Well, could you imagine in a base situation, the computer tells you it's a strike and the umpire calls it a ball? The guy will be tortured by every fan base. Because we're going to tell it AI is wrong. It seems pretty accurate.
No, I think it is interesting. I did not know that the umpire could overrule a call from the computer, which again would be weird because he's completely overturning what would be a correct call. That ball is flied into kind of deep center field. That'll be deep enough though to tag, and Garriola will cross home plate, standing up, and it's a 4-0 lead here in the first.
Yeah, beautiful at bat because once Gary Orr got over that third with no outs, the number one goal of this inning was to bring him home. So the fact that they could do that was a big win for the Saints.
Now going back to the computer called balls and strikes. Now I've seen some umpires, what will happen is that if a pitcher is kind of dominating throughout the game, they're constantly hitting the zone and hitting their spots. Sometimes the umpire will give him a call that might be an inch or two off the plate. And I think maybe that might be a situation in which he would overturn an AI call, but I would still be able to see the frustration from the opposing team is when they know that that pitch is 100% a ball. Not that it was close, but the computer itself said, no, that missed the strike zone, and the umpire is going to overturn it.
Well, I feel like they can't make the computer's rulings public. They can't, or else the umpire would have no credibility overturning any call. For instance, that 2-1 just missed high and outside to Jacob Wyeth to make it 3-1. If that were to be called a strike by the umpire, let's just say the umpire had a computer telling him it was a ball. If we knew it was a ball because of the computer, a bunch of fans would probably be rioting.
And Cadena will grab that pop-up from Wyeth to finally retire the side, but not before the Saints strike for not just one, not two, not even three, but 4 runs here in the first inning. Picked up 4 base hits, did not leave anyone on. And we head to the second inning. It's a 4-0 lead for the Saints. Back for the second inning. It was a long first inning as the Saints picked up 4 runs to grab the early lead. Ross Cadena leading things off for the Foresters. Cornwell is back on the mound for the Saints as that first pitch misses wide. Fly ball down the right field line. That'll get out of play.
An interesting spectacle down the right field line. I'm not sure if you can see it on your monitor, but right on the line that becomes out of play, the entire Foresters bullpen is just lined up single file, standing along that line watching the game. It's almost like the national anthem is going on.
Do we have somebody down there? Yep, we do. On the other side, the Saints.
It's one of those standoffs.
It's a war.
Broken bat, grounder to the left side. It's kicked off the glove of Jason Gonzalez, and Cadena will reach first base safely. So looking down the left field line, so you can't see either on your monitor, unfortunately. That's just the limits of the camera we have. But the Foresters bullpen having their standoff there down the right field line, by just all the way down at the fence. And the same thing with the Saints bullpen standing down the left field line by the fence.
I'm not sure what a red flag signifies.
It might be pretending it's a white flag.
No, because they didn't give up. They're still standing there.
Maybe a truce, perhaps.
I'm not entirely sure what it could signify, but the Foresters just started waving an undershirt around, a red undershirt, waving it like it was a flag.
Might be a ploy to be like, hey, we'll give up if you guys give up, and then one team gives up first, and haha, we win. Ground ball to shortstop, 6-4 on to first, 3, not in time. And Blake Hall will beat out the potential double play, so he reaches first on a fielder's choice, but 1 out.
All right, boys, predictions for how long that's going to go and who's going to win.
I couldn't tell you who I'm going to predict is going to win, but these are two stubborn teams.
I say the whole game.
It could last the whole game.
Now that's something I would like to see. First pitch into Connor McKenna. It's a big swing and a miss.
We've seen a couple standoffs like that in the major leagues, but usually, they're not out of the field of play, so they get yelled at by the umpires, and then one team finally gives in to the umpire and goes back in, and that's how it ends. But both these teams have players lined up outside of the field of play, which means they're not going to get yelled at. Could go on forever.
0-1, fastball misses inside. Now, the one thing I can see between these two teams in the standoff is that the Foresters, they have at least one guy who's not on the line. He's just kind of walking out around there. Looking at the Saints and the left field line, I don't see any one of the pitchers just walking around. So every single one of those guys is standing on the line.
I honestly don't think that the Saints bullpen has moved since the national anthem, because they were standing over there when Hall dropped that foul ball in left field.
That might be the only thing that'll break it up. A foul ball right at one of them.
Well, fortune favors the Foresters then, with a right-handed batter up.
It would have to be a pretty deep fly ball either way, because again, they are right by the fence, and down the left field line, it's 374 feet down that line, 345 down the right. Chopper foul down the third base line and towards the dugout. So it's still a 2-2 count to McKenna. We mentioned the heat at the beginning of the ball game. It is currently 84 degrees, but there's not a cloud in the sky, only a light breeze blowing out towards left center. We can't feel it here behind the plate. Curveball gets him looking. A great pitch from Cornwell. Gets McKenna for the second out of the inning.
And Cornwell is one of the Saints' best pitchers on their roster right now. Him and the prospect game selectees Colin King and Cade Bollinger have looked phenomenal so far this summer. And right there, Cornwell gives you an example of why he's been so good. That breaking ball coming across the plate completely froze Connor McKenna.
In the CCL, it's not often we see such a dominant curve, really. It's usually a fastball that gets you going. So it's nice to see someone with that stuff, that dirty stuff that you see on TV, and it really gets you noticed.
So as that first pitch misses to Tevin Tucker, that is Cornwell's 31st pitch of the ball game, which is the same amount that it took Jake Jackson just to get out of the first. pick off, but Hall is back in standing.
Now, I don't think that was Cornwell's go-to move. I don't think that was his best move. He kind of signaled that one. He put it out there and showed him that he was going to first base. Took a lot longer to throw over. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go to his real move at some point in this at-bat.
I'm sure it was I see ya. I'll forget about you over there. You've been over there for a while.
Tevin Tucker at the plate right now, the sophomore from West Virginia University. One of the few players on this team born in the year 2000.
Tucker squares around, pulls it back, and that pitch just misses. Cornwell thought he had that. So it's a 2-1 count to Tucker. Blake Hall over at first base. Does have 4 stolen bases on the season. Has been caught twice. Two-one fastball. That one also misses low. 3-1. Fly ball deep into the left center gap. That is over the wall. Out of here, a home run from Tevin Tucker cuts the lead in half. And Tucker thought he had a ground rule double, but no. Ball went over the wall on the fly, and he finally comes around third and crosses the plate.
That would be his first home run on the season. With that 204 batting average, not the biggest power hitter, but all you need to do is make good contact.
So with that home run, jumped on that 2-2 fastball, sent it over the Arroyo in that Arroyo Seco baseball sign in left center. And it's a 4-2 ball game.
Yeah, more of a speed guy he was with 10 stolen bases, but that was a deep part of the ballpark.
It's one of the deepest.
Credit to do.
One of the deepest parts of the ballpark. Every single broadcast we've talked about the proportions of this ballpark, but it's worth talking about. 374 down the left field line is the deepest part.
Hard line drive into center. Christian Scott, though, will track back and make the catch for the final out of the inning. But the Foresters strike back for 2. They cut the lead in half. Going to the bottom of the second, it's a 4-2 ball game. Bottom of the second inning, Nicholas Pagan, Wyatt Stapp, and then Christian Scott, the 3 to get things going for the Saints. Saints looking to get back the runs that they gave up in the bottom half. Foul ball right at Wyatt Stapp in the on-deck circle. He has to duck out of the way, but he does avoid it.
You know, it's worth mentioning, in the top of the second, the very first play, grounder to the third base side, Gonzalez went for it. Possibly Cowley should have gotten it. Who knows? But play wasn't made. Scored as a hit. But if that play was made, there would have been 3 outs. No home run would have occurred. And it's still a 4-0 ball game.
It was sort of a tough play, ball in the hole. That one is fouled back out of play behind the plate.
It was a tough play, and that's something you can't necessarily yell at Gonzalez for, because as a third baseman, you're supposed to be aggressive coming across the diamond, going after those. And, you know, maybe it would have been better if he just completely missed the ball, but he caught a piece of it.
Big swing and a miss from Pagan as he goes down on strikes for the first out of the inning.
Now batting, the second baseman.
I think another thing worth mentioning here is the last time Mitch and I called a game together where the Saints had an offensive explosion in the first inning was that game at Cal Lutheran University against the Conejo Oaks.
Back at the beginning of the season.
I believe it was like the third game of the season.
Yep.
Yeah. They put up 6 in the top half of the first inning and ended up losing an extra 7-6.
First pitch swinging from Stapp into left field, but it's so deep over in that part of the ballpark that Blake Hall is able to track back and have enough room to make the catch. 2 outs.
Same distance to any other field, and that ball's off the wall or gone. But if, like we've mentioned a few times, it's deepest to left field, and it makes it really hard for the left fielder to cover everything, but at the same time, it also keeps a lot of balls in the ballpark.
So 2 quick outs here to start the second. Only 6 pitches needed as the lineup turns over for Christian Scott.
Yeah, that was one of those fly balls where on paper it goes down as an out, but you hope Wyatt Stapp goes back knowing he got all of that one.
2-0 to Christian Scott after that fastball. Just misses. Scott singled in the previous inning to lead things off and ended up coming around to score another grounder up the middle. This one fielded cleanly from Tucker. Throw on to first is in time. And so the Saints, after putting up 4 in the first, go down in order here in the second. We head to the third. Saints still lead 4-2.
Right shoulder, number 4.
Top of the third inning at Jackie Robinson Memorial Field. Drew Baker, the Foresters' leadoff hitter, leading things off here in the third.
And Baker singled to lead things off in the first inning. Ended up getting picked off by Cornwell, though, and that's what kind of stunted the rally in the first.
Fouls that first pitch fastball out of play. I mentioned briefly back in the top of the inning, Cornwell had about halfway through the inning, the same amount of pitches as Jackson, the Foresters pitcher, needed to get through just one. And after 31 pitches through that first inning, needed only 9 to get through the Saints in the bottom half of the second.
It's pretty much the best bounce back inning you can ask for a pitcher. And we mentioned the 6-run explosion in that one game. You hope the Saints don't lull themselves to sleep now after that big first inning.
The Saints have a problem, especially recently, of going down in order, going down 1-2-3. Their last game against the San Luis Obispo Blues, they lost that one 12-5. Of the 9 innings, they went down in order 4 times.
When we talk about so much with the Saints, their ability to explode out of nowhere for 5, 6, upwards of 7 runs. So that could be a result of, the 2 halves. You got the 1-2-3s, and you got the batting around. Not much in between.
Curveball just misses inside. I think kind of crossed Wyeth up a little bit.
Someone from the Saints dugout said strike, and it was pretty convincing, I'm not going to lie. I thought for a second it was the home plate umpire.
The AI would be saying strike in the year, we know that.
Chopper to third, fielded cleanly by Gonzalez. Strong throw on to first is in time. And Baker goes down as out number 1.
Now
Well, that's
batting,
a good example of why he's
number
at Vanderbilt.
16,
Such a smooth fielding play over there at third base. Kind of rolled over, fielded it, bobbled a little bit, but was able to pick it right back up and delivered a strike over there at first base, easily beating Drew Baker.
Yeah, and along with explosion of runs, we talk about the middle infield. Not so much on the corners. It's always pretty sure-handed. But the middle infield having some trouble. Lately, we have games with 6 errors. Another one was 4. Those mostly coming up the middle. So that's big to watch today. See how they handle themselves out there.
Oh, 1 pitch is a fastball, catches the inside corner. Strike 2. But Cornwell sort of pitching backwards in this at-bat. Started Bellafronto with a curveball, had him way out in front, and then is able to sneak a fastball past him for the second strike. Goes with the curveball again, just misses outside.
Yeah, Cornwall not happy with that call. Looks over to the dugout.
It goes back to what Matt was saying in the first. It's a small strike zone that this home plate umpire is giving both teams. Another curveball fouled off the foot of Bellafronto.
And we talked so much about the prowess of both the pitchers on the mound today, for both teams, I should say. That could possibly lead to the absolute explosion, offensive explosion we've seen so far this game. 4 runs from the Saints, 2 from the Foresters. When you're being squeezed or feel like you're being squeezed, oftentimes, you have to feed the ball right into that small zone, and that makes it easier to hit.
1-2 fastball misses outside. Does not tempt Bellafronto to swing. So it's a 2-2 count. That ball is chopped foul into the Saints dugout.
I feel like it's only fair for the fans at home to get an update every couple of innings or major updates. The national anthem war is still going on. Nobody has given up. Still holding strong on both sides.
I've seen a few guys from the Saints dugout go down the line and talk to the guys that one is ripped down the right field line, and that'll get to the foul pole, and Bellafronto is not stopping at second. He wants 3, and he will get in there standing. And Bellafronto, after working a good at-bat, picks himself up a 1-out triple.
Leading off.
What a good piece of hitting. Went with the pitch. Didn't try and pull it down the line, just went with the pitch, poked it down that right field line, and Garriola had a long way to go to chase that one down. Bellafronto took advantage, went all the way around, and now he's standing 90 feet away from making this a 1-run ball game.
And going back to the dimensions. And it's one of those weird things we talk about. And the hidden ball trick works as Cornwell did not have the ball on the mound. It was actually Jason Gonzalez who had it. The umpire called him out at third.
It depends on whether or not Cornwell stepped on the rubber. If he stepped on the rubber, it's a balk, and that's a run for the Foresters. If he just stayed on the mound, stayed around the rubber, didn't get it onto the rubber, though, Bellafronto's out, and the Saints pulled off some wizardry.
And that's what the Foresters players and coaches are yelling from the dugout. They thought that Cornwell had stepped on the rubber, and they want the buckle. That's what the umpires are deliberating.
I haven't seen a hidden ball trick work since playing pony ball tournaments when I was about 12 years old, 11 years old.
Well, I can tell you I've never seen it in a game I've been watching. That's for sure.
And with deliberation over, it is official. Bellafronto out.
Now, there's a lot of debate whether or not that's a Bush League play. What are your guys' initial thoughts on the hidden ball trick?
I wouldn't
call it Bush
call
League.
it Bush League.
It's definitely within the defense's rights. I feel like it's as much of an issue as it is on the offensive end as well. Bellafronto's got to keep his eyes on the ball. You know, you often see first basemen, when there's a pickoff attempt over there, you'll see them slap down the tag and then pretend to throw the ball back. You got to have someone talking to you. If you're not able to see the ball, your third base coach in that example there, or your first base coach in the example I was saying, needs to be saying, ball still here, just to keep you on the bag. There was no communication there, so why not take advantage?
And the Foresters manager not happy with the call. He's been given a piece of his mind to the umpires for quite some time now. And looking, I've got an electronic scorebook with me. I don't really know how to mark that down.
I think it's the other button, maybe?
Hidden ball trick.
There you go.
And I'd like to be able to type it in. Got him.
Yeah. All right, it gets to a point here where the umps gotta stop irritating this guy. We're pushing 3 minutes now. Talking to the umps.
It's been long enough to where Cornwell is throwing some more warm-up pitches to keep himself loose.
Yes, he deserves an explanation.
I was going to say, he definitely deserves an explanation, and if I'm head coach Bill Pintard, I'm not leaving without an exact explanation of why Cornwell was allowed on the mound.
And one of the assistant coaches is yelling from the umpire. The umpires are telling him to stop talking. In fact, the third base umpire is ejected. I don't know which assistant coach it is, but he has been tossed from the ball game.
For words we are not allowed to say on this broadcast.
I believe that's assistant coach Steve Shuck, who's now going to have to leave the game, and it is. He's wearing number 50 on his back, and he's refusing to leave the dugout.
He's still, I mean, once you're ejected, I guess you can
do whatever you want.
Keep going, and there's no stopping him now. And he's still talking as he heads to the end of the dugout.
Now the question is, where does he go? It's not like he can necessarily go home.
They're
Sit the bus.
2.5 hour, 3 hour drive from here in Pasadena up to Santa Barbara. So
it's a long way now, so you better start now.
7 p.m. on a Thursday, you could probably do that drive in about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
So he got to be going pretty fast.
I'm just going to put this out there. As far as ejections go, one of the weakest I've seen. I feel you better go all out if you're going to get ejected. That's just me, though.
So 1-1 count to Christian Franklin. So there's 2 outs now here in the third, nobody on. And Coach Shuck finally is out of the dugout. That curveball just misses outside.
But going back, a 2.5 hour drive home if he has to go home. I'm not entirely sure where they're going to send him. he might just hang out in the bleachers behind the dugout where he's not visible.
There is a nice cafe nearby. Solid spot.
I mean, we are in a park. So
That is true.
This is true.
there's a good amount of spots that
A park that I
Chuck
actually
can go.
recently discovered does not have any basketball hoops nearby here.
What kind of a park is it?
I'm not sure.
a big swing and a miss by Franklin on a great curveball from Cornwell. And that is the final out of the third inning. Technically, the Foresters go 1, 2, 3, though in an odd manner. And so with that, we head to the bottom half. Saints still lead 4-2. Evan Russell, Drew Cowley, and Andy Garriola, the three to get things going for the Saints here in the bottom of the third.
You know, if you're the Saints now, if you get a runner on, you better be hyper aware of where that ball is. Because if I'm the Foresters, I'm going to try something like that too.
Russell with a line drive single back in the first inning. So he takes that slider in for strike one.
Tyler, you're absolutely right. You have to be super vigilant, not just on the base pass now, but everywhere, because you open up a whole can of tricks as soon as you pull a hidden ball trick
That's
like
right.
that. Because the Foresters aren't going to just kind of sit there and take that. Especially coming right after the triple. You know, it's not often you see it.
You know, it's only the third inning. We've had an ejection, a hidden ball trick, an ongoing national anthem war. It's quite the action here at Jackie Robinson Memorial Field.
And 6 runs have been scored.
Yeah. On top of that, there's baseball. Yeah. You forget.
So the full count to Evan Russell. Now, the one thing that interests me is, how did they plan that? I get like it's one of those things that kind of happen on the fly. That pop up is behind the plate and will just get over the fence and out of play. Cadena just a few feet away from it. If the fence maybe extends another 5 feet out and he makes that catch. But again, that's one of those things that kind of happens on the fly. The throw in on that triple from Bellafronto went all the way to Gonzalez at third. Now, did he just kind of hold on and give a nod to Cornwell, or it's just one of those things that kind of, how do you decide that that's what's going to happen? And Russell takes the full count pitch just wide, and he reaches first base on the walk.
Well, that could be why Cornwell went back towards the mound and almost stepped on the rubber. It could be he was kind of confused. He wasn't quite sure why Gonzalez was keeping the ball. Obviously, it registered eventually, and the play ended up working, but it's probably a moment of confusion for Cornwell on the mound.
Yeah, you have to imagine there was some discussion because of the danger of the balk scoring the run. So I imagine words were said, whether it was in a previous game where they talked about a situation, you know, what if next time this happens? Or like you said, just on the fly.
And again, if it was something that was made on the fly as the runner goes pitch out, throw down to second is way over Tucker's head and into center field. Russell trying to advance on to third. Throw is in time, but not handled cleanly by McKenna. And Russell steals second and reaches third on the throwing error from Cadena.
I can confirm the pitcher does have the ball. There's no hidden ball trick.
Well, he's showing everyone it right now as he's trying to get a new one.
Third baseman McKenna tried to deke him a little bit over there. Not reacting to the throw until the very last second. Didn't work.
If he just played it properly, he might have been able to squeeze onto that and tag Russell out.
Big swing at the curveball in the dirt. And there's 2 strikes to Cowley. Another ball almost in the dirt, but Cowley fights it off.
Yeah, with that foul ball and 2 strikes, that brings up another rule change. So we were talking about the Atlantic League and how many rule changes they're experimenting with. Another one that was implemented today is the ability to foul off 1 pitch when you're bunting with 2 strikes. So it's no longer an automatic strikeout. You're allowed to, with 2 strikes, lay down a bunt foul, and you get that 1 exemption.
I feel like that's like playing slow pitch softball. That ball's fouled off, but held on by the catcher. And Cowley goes down on a swinging strikeout foul tip.
That's the first time I'm hearing about that one. And honestly, I don't think I'm a fan. I don't know if it's because I'm a purist or just because what they have in place kind of makes sense. I don't know how I feel about just throwing 1 foul up there for no apparent reason.
At least it's only 1 foul ball. Because if you completely say that foul balls with 2 strikes are no longer outs, I should say foul balls when bunting with 2 strikes are no longer outs, then you could just stand up there and bunt as many pitches as you want.
Well, it gets to the point where you kind of wonder why would they even mess with that? You know? There's no obvious reason. I don't see why. It's not an epidemic. I don't think I've ever thought about that.
It just doesn't make sense why there are so many rule changes to benefit the batter right now in a game where the pitchers are suffering this season.
It goes to what sells. And offense sells more than anything. I hear all the time from people who go to games, major league games, oh, it's a pitcher's duel, it's kind of boring, blah, blah, blah. That's not what the MLB wants to hear.
I'll never fully understand that argument, saying, oh, not too many runs were scored, it was kind of a boring game. I kind of like pitchers' duels.
Oh, I totally agree.
You get out of there quicker most of the time, too.
It's the best of both worlds.
Line drive into the left center gap. That gets down. Russell will trot in safely, and Garriola in standing with his 2nd RBI double of the game.
That guy's special. Finds the gaps both sides of the center fielder. Right center in his first at-bat, left center in his second at-bat. He's got 2 RBIs, and he's 2 for 2 with 2 stand-up doubles.
And both times, like I said, he's been hitting them where the ball has been pitched. That double in the first inning was on the outer half of the plate. Rips it to the right center gap, and that one, low and inside, takes it to the left center gap.
Well, it's something you don't often see from power hitters. You don't see power hitters go with the pitch that often. Most of the time, if they're known for their ability to leave the ballpark, they'll try and pull the pitches a lot because that's the money. That's the money pitch for them. The inside part of the plate where they can turn their body, apply all that torque, that's where they make their money. That's where they put the ball out of the ballpark. Garriola, known for his ability to leave the ballpark, just kind of goes with what's thrown to him.
And there will be a pitching change on the mound. Coach Pintard says that he has enough from Jackson. So we'll tell you who the pitcher is and a bit more about him when we get back from this quick timeout. we resume action here in the bottom of the third, a pitching change as Clayton Beater is coming on in relief for Jackson.
Garriola over there joking with the second baseman, making sure there's no ball anywhere. Obviously wouldn't be able to, but having fun out there with the hidden ball trick.
First pitch from the new pitcher into Jason Gonzalez is a strike.
Clayton Beater on the season, only 4 innings pitched, but no earned runs allowed in that span. 8 strikeouts through those 4.
The 0-1 pitch. Gonzalez takes that one low.
And with Beater coming into the game and replacing Jake Jackson, it's not a final line yet because Garriola is still Jackson's runner, but at the moment his line sits at 2 1/3, 5 hits, 5 runs, 3 of them earned, 1 walk, and 3 strikeouts.
And we talked about how intimidating Forrester's pitching staff is. So for the Saints to get to them, especially with them being in first place, it's a big confidence boost for this entire Saints squad.
Well, and they kind of needed this as well, coming off of that 12-5 loss to the San Luis Obispo Blues right before the Prospect game. And that was a crucial loss because both teams had won 3 games against each other prior to that one, the Blues winning it, and they end up taking the season series.
And they're also fighting for that third place spot in the CCL right now. The Blues at 11-13 and the Saints at 13-12. So they're neck and neck for that final playoff spot.
Yeah, just a game and a half is the lead for the Saints over the Blues. If they had won that one, it would be a 3.5 game lead.
3-1 pitch, line drive down the right field line, right towards the still ongoing national anthem standoff. But the ball will trail more into out of play before it can reach the Foresters pitchers out there.
And even though Gonzalez is 0 for 1 so far on the day with a strikeout, in both at-bats he's forced a full count. So he's been working the pitch count of this Foresters pitching staff.
Really getting everyone else in the dugout to get a good idea of what he's throwing. Grounder up the middle. Cash can't quite see it. Had to shade his eyes from the sun over at second base. And by the time he's able to field it, well, he keeps it in the infield. Gonzalez has himself a base hit. And it's 1st and 3rd with just 1 out.
Now batting.
Yeah, good job not letting that go into center field. Scoring Garriola on a base hit. Even though it wasn't the optimal outcome, it was still a run-saving play out there at second base.
Well, I feel like since we've mentioned the dimensions of the field, we should talk about the thing that we talk about on every broadcast as well, the sun and the placement behind home plate, which makes it absolutely brutal for almost every single position in the field. Right now, I'm not sure if you can completely tell, but the shadow reaches just past the pitcher, which makes it impossible to read coming out of that shadow.
First pitch into Pete Durkee is a called strike 1. Now, speaking of Pete Durkee, he was one of the 4 Saints to enter a CCL home run derby. And the other, Andy Garriola, he's on 3rd, and there was also Thomas Lovano and Drew Cowley on that list. And we were talking about Garriola, probably the premier power player for the Saints.
Garriola, like you said, he's a premier power hitter, but Durkee does a good job too. He can swing the bat with a lot of power. And that home run derby that you're talking about, we actually had a Twitter poll up asking between those 4 players that you mentioned, which player do you think would win? I didn't actually check the final results, but during the game on Monday we were looking, and it looked like Garriola was kind of running away with that one.
I'm fairly certain he would be the guy to win it. Now, I thought when they were talking about that, they were going to be the 4 guys kind of squaring off against each other, just like before or after one of the games. Now, going back to Garriola, we talked about, or you were talking about how he's one of those different breeds of power hitters who can kind of spray the ball around the field. And that's not something, as you said, that we see with a lot of power hitters at the higher divisions, at the higher levels. But a couple guys that I will say I have noticed. I think one of the biggest ones are, Mike Trout. He can hit the ball anywhere, but also Ronald Acuna, who was in the home run derby, the Major League Home Run Derby this year himself, and I don't think I've ever seen it in a home run derby. All those guys just trying to pull the ball as hard as they can. Acuna was easily peppering balls over the right center field wall.
I'm glad you brought that up. That was actually another player that came to mind. Acuna absolutely hit it to almost every single part of the ballpark. Another name to mention there would be Pete Alonso. Most of his home runs went to center field.
Chopper gets over Presno's head at first. Gonzalez will get all the way to third, and Durkee advances to second himself, and he picks himself up an RBI double. That is the fourth of the game for the Saints.
So with Garriola coming around to score, that does make Jackson's line final. The only adjustment you have to make is add one more run, so it's 2 1/3, 5 hits, 6 runs, 4 of them earned, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. That was Jackson's final line, and Beater's got 2 runners charged to him. If they come home, they're both in scoring position right now.
So as I said, that was the fourth RBI double by a Saints batter this ballgame, and it's a 6-2 ballgame.
You mentioned the home run derby. I want to get your thoughts on, obviously the winner was Pete Alonso, hitting 57 total home runs. But if we look at the grand scheme of things,
the real winner.
You know what? Vlad Jr. hit 91. All right, so I'm just throwing it out there that it's a little strange, someone with 57 home runs can beat someone with 91. Like, that's not just a few more.
It's the way that, the tournament. It's a tournament. It's kind of, everyone is seated, and it's a bracket, and obviously Vlad was on one and Pete Alonso on the other, and Vlad not only broke the record for the amount of home runs in a round. The Rangers, before the baseball game, tweeted out Josh Hamilton's round in the 2008 Derby where he hit 28 and talking about how, this record's never going to be broken. And not only was it broken, it was shattered.
It was absolutely shattered.
By both Vlad and Jock Peterson. That second round semifinal between them was ridiculous. And Wyeth gets a piece of it, but Cadena holds on, and Wyeth going down swinging, and there's 2 outs.
And let's be honest, that round with Vlad Jr. and Jock Peterson was the only round that mattered. After that, it was
I would
cool.
think I'd have to disagree with you here.
I know you would. Well, I know you would.
I'm pretty sure there was a guy crowned home run king, and he did so by beating Vlad Jr.
They have to write someone down.
For those who don't know, Matt is a Mets fan. That ball is grounded to third base. Skips up on McKenna, and he can't field it cleanly. So Pagan reaches first base on the air, and Gonzalez comes home to score.
Yeah, a bit of an angels in the outfield moment right there. Is last moment that ball took a hop. Bit rough for the third baseman. Can't blame him on that type of hop.
Way to kill my credibility, guys.
No, I'm not saying it's killing my credibility.
But I'm a Reds fan. Everyone knows that. Rich is an Angels fan. We've talked about that.
This is true. But yes, I have been. I had quite a bit of conversations about this home run derby, and quite a few of my friends, especially from back at school, wanted to let me know that the home run king should not have been wearing the blue and orange, but rather been wearing blue and white.
Now, I don't want to say that it was undeserved.
Right, of course.
He beat Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in the final round. That's how you win. He made it to the finals. He beat, who was it in the first round? It was
Santana.
Carlos Santana, and then beat Acuna in the semifinals. So he deserved to be in the final, and he played to the rules. He beat Vladimir Guerrero in the finals. Now, I think it's just, in the back of my mind, it's like, it sucks because of how many Vlad Jr. hit. But at the end of the day, Pete Alonso is the home run derby champion.
Of course. When you Google it, actually, I was going to say when you Google the home run derby, only one thing will come up, and that's the winner. But in a few years, if you Google that home run derby, the Vlad Jr. thing might be the first thing to pop up. So
Yeah, you kind of have to feel bad for Pete Alonso almost. He did it. He
Yeah.
played it by
Yeah.
the rules.
Yeah.
And it's, he's going to want to enjoy it, and everyone else is, a lot of people are, saying, oh, you didn't deserve it, but
One thing Alonso has shown in his young career, though, is his ability to just kind of ignore the naysayers and the haters. And that's a big thing. Playing in New York, that's an aggressive city, an aggressive fan base.
Especially with the, the internal issues going on right now with them. He seems like a very down-to-earth, peaceful man. This was my first time really hearing him talk during the All-Star game. Talk about his approach, advice he's been given. Seems like one of the good guys.
the full count pitch is taken high by Stapp, and the bases are loaded now for Christian Scott.
And Scott now coming to the plate. That means the Saints have batted around pretty much. This is the 9th batter of the inning.
Now batting.
Scott ended the second inning, and now
Number
he
12, Christian
has a chance to end the third, but also has a chance to drive in some runs for the Saints. Not that there's been a lack of runs scored so far for them. 7 runs in already through 2 2/3.
I think I'd be looking for the first pitch fastball right now.
Well, he got the first pitch fastball. It was just a little too low. You don't want to take a swing at that pitch, especially coming up to the plate after a walk.
The 1-0 pitch to Scott. Chops that one to third. That one is fielded cleanly by McKenna. He throws it on over to second to get Stapp on the force out. And while they can't push across any runners in that bases loaded situation, they do still pick up 3 in the inning and increase their lead to 7-2. Top of the 4th inning here at Jackie Robinson Memorial Field. Alex Cornwell back on the mound for his 4th inning of work. First pitch in to Zach Presno is a called strike. Curveball in the dirt, gets past Wyeth to the backstop, and if we were playing with those new rules, Presno would be on first base.
Yeah, I'm still not completely sold on that rule change, I'm going to be honest with
Definitely
you.
not.
I'll never be sold on that, to be 100% real. I would like to listen to someone, though, who supports it, explain to me why. Because I just can't understand why.
Check swing, but it's a called strike anyway. And count is now full. Again, Commissioner Manfred talking about ever since he came in as that one gets past is swinging Alex Cornwall for strike 3, and he's the first out of the inning. So Commissioner Manfred, when he first came into office, I guess you could say, he said that he wanted the game of baseball to have more offense, and the last couple of years we've seen that with the home run record being shattered last year, and that record that was set last year looking to be broken again this year, and also multiple individual team home records are looking to be broken again. As there is a meeting on the mound.
And an interesting timing for a meeting with assistant coach Toges. Usually, after a swing and strikeout like that, you wouldn't see a coach go out to have a chat with the pitcher, but maybe there's some sort of some sort of strategy that he wants to go talk with his pitcher and infield.
Now they can't pull off the hidden ball trick out of this. There's no one on base.
Was this batter the one that was out on the hidden ball trick?
No, that was Nick Bellafronto. And that was just in the previous inning. It is in the bottom of the third. 3 runs for the Saints and a pitching change, so it was quite a long inning. But going back to Commissioner Manfred and wanting baseball to have more offense, talking about all the home runs we've seen this year, and some pitchers, most notably Justin Verlander, complaining, saying that the balls this year are juiced. That ball is driven to deep left field. That is at the wall, and it'll one-hop the wall. Evan Russell, though, doing a good job recovering on it. Gets it in quickly to hold Cadena to just a stand-up double.
And that could be what the Foresters needed to get their offense going. They scored 2 in the second inning, but only had 5 batters come up to the plate in that one. They really have kind of struggled to keep things going, to string hits together. Multiple times they've gotten people on base, and multiple times they've had them called out, whether it was they were caught stealing or, of course, that hidden ball trick we saw in the third inning.
Curveball from Cornwell is in there for a called strike 1. So once again, going back to the whole balls juiced situation with the major leagues, Justin Verlander has come out against it, saying that Commissioner Manfred said, it just must have been the way that the balls were made this year. But Verlander thinks it was purposely done this way because of how because of how Manfred wants more offense. Is that curveball misses low and outside, so Verlander has been very outspoken against it. And I think my favorite response has been Max Scherzer, who they were talking to him before the All-Star game, and he was saying, balls seem to be jumping off a bit more this year, and that Commissioner Manfred said that the balls seem to be a bit more juiced this year, but I'm not going to cry about it. I still got to go out and pitch. Our hitters get to hit with it, so why should I complain?
That's a good point. I also believe that Verlander has given up the most home runs he's ever given up in one season so far.
He's on pace too.
At least. And he leads the league, I believe. Most of them solo home runs, but when that's the case and you're the loudest about it, it's suspicious.
The funniest thing I think about that as well is that Verlander, while he does lead the majors in home runs allowed, that ball is fouled down the left field line. So he leads the major leagues in home runs allowed, but he also leads the major leagues in the lowest whip. So he gives up the least amount of walks and hits, yet he's given up the most amount of home runs. So when batters connect, the ball tends to go a long way.
Which adds a little bit of credibility to his argument.
It does.
They interviewed about him, asked him about it during the All-Star game. They also had Bellinger and Yelich mic'd up at the same time. They asked both of them about it, and obviously it was pretty funny because they both said, "No, it's pretty good. We like it. We're doing good. You know, don't change anything. Everything's good with us."
Well, I found it funny that they continued to try and ask these guys whether or not they thought the ball was juiced, as if they were going to go against the league and say, yeah, you know what, the league juiced the balls this year.
That ball gets past Wyeth. And Cadena will move up to third base. Credit that one more as a pass ball, as Wyeth had a glove on it, but couldn't quite handle it.
Well, that moves a runner over there to third base, like you mentioned. Foresters have only had 2 runners reach third base. The previous one was Bellafronto, who got called out because of the hidden ball trick. The 2 runs that came home thanks to that home run from Tevin Tucker in the second inning.
Full count pitch. Fly ball into shallow right center field. That'll drop in front of Scott. And Blake Hall will pick himself up an RBI single. It's a 7-3 ball game.
And that will lead to the end of the day for Alex Cornwell, as head coach Aaron Milam's going to go out there and make a pitching change. It's not too often you see a pitcher go more than 3 innings in the California Collegiate League. Oftentimes there's a lot of guys on the roster, so they like to make quick changes, have their pitchers go in and out. And head coach Aaron Milam's actually going to call out the home plate umpire. Talk to him on the mound. Maybe there won't be a pitching change.
Yes, I haven't seen anyone coming in from the Saints bullpen. And Milam does signal. They will, in fact, go to a new pitcher, and we'll tell you who this new pitcher is and more about him after this quick timeout. So the pitching change for the Saints, they are bringing in Trevor Davis from the bullpen. Jave Davis out of Cornell. Davis has not pitched this game or pitched this season, and the funny thing is, when everyone was coming back from the pitching change, Blake Hall decided that he wanted to be on second base instead of over at first base.
You know what, man? Be where you want to be, you know?
And the umpires are going to deliberate it. Coach Milam was pointing that out.
Listen, if this is true, what's happening, that is a ridiculous, boneheaded thing.
That's a bold move. It's a very bold move, and
I mean, I guess the worst that he can do is just be called back to first.
yeah, it's not like he's going to get kicked out of the game.
Well, I
Can you
guess
tie him?
what Coach Milam shouldn't have done was that he should have had Davis pick off, like step off and throw over to first or throw over to second and have them tag Hall, because then he would have been out. But the umpires deliberate and realize
actually,
he should be back at first base.
That's interesting. You bring up a good point.
Yeah, I think head coach Aaron Milam just missed out on a possible out, a possible free out.
Although, credit to him, at least there was not a pitch made, and I think at that point it just would have been
Stolen base.
The Foresters would have gotten away with something. Squares around a bunt. Tries to pull it back. Throw down to first is well over the head of Durke. And Hall moves all the way on over to third.
I think they called a balk.
So they are, in fact, calling it a balk. And so the Saints getting a bit lucky.
So he was right. He is at second. Yeah, we're all proven wrong.
And we are.
Credit to Blake Hall. He knew everything we didn't.
So I think that should be no pitch, as there was a balk.
This game seemingly has
Fastball
everything. Oh.
high and in, and the Foresters dugout kind of chirping.
You know, Trevor Davis did make eye contact there with McKenna. After that, stared him down, not saying anything was intentional, but worth noting for this pitch.
So 1-0, the count. Big swing at a slider from Davis, and it's 1-1.
This game does have the slow brewings of a potential, other explosion by another manager, player. I kind of feel it in the air, the tension.
Another good slider from Davis, and another swing and a miss from McKenna.
You know what, Tyler, you brought up the tension. That tends to happen, one, when we've mentioned the reputation of the Saints and their tendency to voice their opinions throughout games, but another reason that it could build up is the fact that this game's already at 1 hour and 36 minutes, and we're in the top half of the 4th inning.
A 1-2 pitch. Another slider in the dirt, but the good job from Wyeth to block that and keep Hall over at second.
You bring up an hour and what is it now?
36.
36.
I know we've mentioned it already a few times, but they're fleeting, but the national anthem war is still going on, 1 hour and 36 minutes strong.
Fly ball down the left field line, out of play over the heads of the Saints players in the national anthem standoff.
The Great War.
They have moved in. They're not all the way down at the fence. They are probably about halfway between the dugout and the fence.
you kind of have to give these guys credit at this point. Both teams. The ones that haven't given up yet, still standing on that line. This is a long time.
So, we talk about tension. We talk about the national anthem standoff. If there happens to be a benches clearing scuffle, do you run in?
No. No, and I do not wish a benches clearing scuffle. I do not hope that happens.
There have been 2 times at home this season where we have seen the benches clear. Swing and a miss on the curveball in the dirt. Trevor Davis looking like a magician because he had McKenna fooled on that one.
Ooh.
Well, that brings up Tevin Tucker, who
Now batting.
he's only had one at bat so far,
Number 2,
and he
Tevin
parked it
Tucker.
over in that left center field fence. Just missed the netting by about 5 feet out there. He thought it was a ground rule double. He just kind of stood at second for a little bit. Even with his teammates hollering at him from the dugout, he just kind of stood there. Either way, he got to come all the way around, score, and he drove in 2 of the 3 runs that are on the board for the Foresters right now.
And it seemed like such a long time ago when he hit that home run. It was the top of the second. We're only in the top of the 4th right now.
Well, there have been a lot of timeouts called, a lot of discussions with the umpires. And of course, 2 pitching changes have been made already this game. And both of them were mid-inning pitching changes.
0-1 curveball in there for a called strike 2.
And Tucker knew it. As soon as that ball got past him, he started kind of putting on a little bit of a grimace on his face, wincing a little bit as he let that one go by. He knew that slider caught the outside part of, or the inside part of the plate, I should say.
So 0-2, 2 outs to Tucker. Runner on second base. Fastball in the dirt, blocked, but gets a little bit too far up the line, and Blake Hall will move on over to third.
A good job by the catcher, Jacob Wyeth, to keep his head in the game there, using his mask to block the ball. A little bit of a scary moment, but that's the 3rd time he's been hitting the mask so far this game. So he's been rattled a couple times, but he's staying strong back there.
So Saints currently lead 7-3. Runner now on third, and a big swing and a miss on a filthy slider from Davis. And Tucker, once again, going down swinging for the final out of the inning. The Foresters, they do pick up 1 run here in the 4th inning, and they leave a man stranded. Head to the bottom of the 4th. Saints leading 7-3. You're listening to the Saints on YouTube Live. You're broadcasting home for Arroyo Seco baseball. Bottom of the fourth inning here at Jackie Robinson Memorial Field. Evan Russell in the box for his third plate appearance, facing off against Clayton Beater back out on the mound. First pitch fastball misses high. So Russell getting his third at-bat in just the fourth inning. And that's been in part the Saints batting almost around in two different innings. Bottom of the first, they scored 4, and bottom of the third, the last inning, they scored 3.
And they batted 7 batters in the first, 9 in the third.
They went down in order in the second, right?
Yep.
That is a testament to their either 1, 2, 3 innings or big run scoring.
Streaky offense.
Yeah. Hills and valleys.
So 3 straight misses to Russell to start the inning. And 4 straight misses to start the inning. Russell trotting down at first with his second walk of the ballgame. He's reached base safely in all 3 at-bats.
Well, I got to be honest with you right now. Beater in warm-ups before this inning did not look good. The first pitch he threw airmailed and almost hit me had there not been a chain link fence in between, Beater and I. But either way, it almost hit me. And then he almost did it again on the next pitch. And now we see 4 straight balls from him.
Slows that one down a bit. Still threw the fastball, but took a bit off, and that one catches the strike zone.
Kind of aimed that one.
So 0-1 to McCowley. Big hack, but comes up empty. 0-2. The 0-2 curveball fouled off over the third base dugout. So the count remains 0-2. Callie had a 2 RBI double in his first plate appearance. And almost didn't get the chance to hit that double as he had a pop-up down the left field line in foul territory, and Blake Hall just missed it.
And another wild fastball from Beater. It looks like he's just not finishing his motion. He's letting go of the ball too early and just letting it soar. Could be why he had to take so much off of it just to aim it into the strike zone. We'll see if he's able to figure it out now.
Runner goes early. Beater steps off and throws down to second in time to get Russell. Russell was trying to jump the pitch, trying to get there before Beater would really even notice, but good communication from the rest of the infield telling him to step off, and Russell is retired for the first out.
Whew. I am not entirely sure where that pitch missed. Breaking ball just must have had a little bit too much late action, not enough action earlier in the movement.
2-2 pitch climbs the ladder with the fastball, blows it by Cowley. He goes down swinging. There are 2 outs.
So far, the first 2 batters have mirrored what happened in the third inning, I should say. Evan Russell walked, and then Drew Cowley struck out. That happened to start off last inning. This inning, though, the only difference, Evan Russell got thrown out trying to steal second base. So now with Cowley's strikeout, there's 2 down for Garriola.
So Garriola, he takes that first one outside. 2 for 2 with 2 RBI doubles. One to the right center gap, the other to the left center gap.
Early on with Garriola, we always talked about his first pitch hacks. Either a extra base hit or a strikeout type deal. Lately, it seems like he's really adapted, started taking a lot more pitches, extending the count. I believe it's his second 2-0 count of the ball game. I'm not 100% sure.
Takes a big swing at that one, but comes up empty. I think he's taken the first pitch for a ball in all 3 of his at-bats, and I think that might be a credit to adjusting to the scouting report that the other teams have on him. They see that he's swinging first pitch a lot of the time, so they'll try and throw one outside, and Garriola adjusting back to that.
Well, this is his second 3-1 count. I can tell you that one for sure. The last 3-1 count was in the last inning, so once again, things mirroring the third inning, despite not being as profitable for the Saints.
The 3-1 taken outside for ball 4. So the Saints, they've had 2 runners in reach base this inning, one caught stealing, but both have reached base via the walk.
Third baseman, number 16, Jason.
And that really comes as no surprise, as Beater is really struggling controlling that fastball. He's got a lot of velocity, got a whole lot of velocity behind it, but if you can't locate it in the strike zone, it doesn't really do too much help to you to be able to throw it that fast.
So Jason Gonzalez, he's 1 for 2 on the evening. Struck out in his first at-bat and then singled in his previous plate appearance.
And usually with baseball, if a pitch isn't working for you, you expect him to lay off of it. Don't go to it too much, but I was talking to one of the Saints catchers earlier before the game, and they mentioned because they call all their pitches and the coaches don't have a say in that, the catcher communicates with them that, hey, I'm struggling with this pitch. For the regular season at school, I want to be able to throw it, so today I want to focus on it. So sometimes the weakest pitchers get thrown the most in this league.
And that's really what summer ball is all about, for developing your game, getting ready for the next step in your next regular season.
1-1 pitch misses well high.
And I'm sure it's a healthy balance because all these players want to impress their school, especially if they're on the verge of being a starter. So, it's a balance between working out on pitches you can't throw too well and dominating the strike zone.
Tries to go with the slider on 2-1, but like a lot of the pitches, released it way too early and misses high, 3-1.
If he could find his release point, Beater has quite an arsenal of pitches that we've seen so far. Problem is, he just can't quite figure out where to let go of the ball.
3-1 pitch is fouled back. It's a full count.
Third full count of the game for Gonzalez.
And this time with the count full and 2 outs, Garriola will be off on the pitch. And we know Beater can be quite effective when he's on the mound. Coming into this game in 4 innings, had not given up an earned run and had struck out 8 batters.
I wonder what the problem is then for him. What happened before today's outing? It's caused him to be so wild.
Swung and foul, tipped, but held on by Cadena. Gonzalez goes down swinging for the final out of the inning. So we head to the top of the 5th. Saints lead 7-3. Top of the 5th inning. Ryan Cash leading things off for the Foresters, and Trevor Davis back out on the mound.
Any sun problems for these fielders are long in the past as the lights are on. Jackie Robinson Memorial Field, nice little purple sky in the background.
Oh, yeah. Wow. It's like it's deep purple near the horizon, and as you go up, it gets a little pinker, and it kind of morphs into the blue that you can see right above our
Sounds like
heads.
the modern day Bob Ross over there. Sounds pretty good, man.
Well, you know, I like to look at sunsets.
Do you paint? Are you would you call yourself an artiste?
I would not call myself an artist, and calling myself an artist would be offensive to artists.
Honestly, though, I feel like it's not, because from what I've seen, anyone can be an artist. Whoever's listening, if you think this opinion is wrong, whatever, Jackson Pollock is not an artist. Splashing paint on a canvas and then somehow being able to sell it for hundreds of $millions, fair play to you, but that's not art.
That's fighting words, Mitch.
Sounds like you are taking some seriously bold takes
I am
against
fighting words.
It's just a little,
Jackson
you know.
Pollock. He's a hustler, man. He figured out how to make the money.
I mean, he did. Fair play to him. As that one catches the outside corner for a called strike 3. Cash not too happy with it.
He's getting thrown out, maybe?
He gave a word to the umpire. The umpire
Oh.
following him back to the dugout a few steps, giving him a piece of his own
I
mind.
don't know if I've ever seen that before.
I actually did see that very recently in the last game.
Wow,
Christian Scott got called out and had some choice words to the umpire, and that time the umpire followed him all the way to the dugout.
You know that there are times I've seen people get thrown out where there's no motion made by the ump, so there's a chance something happened. We'll have to see. So that's 2 games in a row then.
Yeah,
Somebody's been thrown out of a Saints game, huh?
two home games in a row. Well, 2 Saints games in a row. You're right, because the only game played in between this and Monday's game was the prospect game.
Well, you know, there's a hidden ball trick. There's as I mentioned, the national anthem war. There's some extracurriculars and ejection. If you want some action, come down to the ballpark.
Yeah.
You will not be disappointed.
Come down to a Saints game, really.
Yeah. Quite a lot of action.
2-0 fastball misses inside.
And there's some baseball in between it all, so can't get much better than that.
So 3-0 to Drew Baker. It's 1 for 2 on the night.
You know what? I couldn't help myself. I had to take a picture. This
look-
guy.
I looked over. Is that an Instagram story worthy picture, or is it just one of those? Hey, keep it on my phone. Let's look at it later.
I think that's going to be just a documented picture for me. I'm not too big on Instagram stories, to be
You
honest.
just tell me you're not an artist. Oh, I see you over there.
Well, I like to appreciate the finer things in life.
I think that's all art is, right?
The finer things.
Appreciating it.
Now, I will say I'm definitely a sucker for a nice sunset. Out at TCU,
Their Tinder bio.
the sun sets over our campus commons. Behind, backdrop, we got some fountains and some nice arches and towers in the background, and it's a popular spot around, when the sun is setting on campus.
That golden hour.
Well, I think Jackie Robinson Memorial Field doesn't get enough credit. First of all, this backdrop is beautiful with the
Runner
skyline.
goes, pitch outside, the throw down to second. High and not in time. And Drew Baker.
And Trevor Davis did a little, oh, that's my bad, to Wyeth. The pitch was not exactly where he wanted it. Made it hard for Wyeth to come up with it and fire it down to second base. But as I was saying, Jackie Robinson Memorial Field doesn't get enough credit for the backdrop. It's a beautiful backdrop with all those trees down in center field, and it spans all the way across down to right field. For all the people who talk about wanting to renovate this field, it's hard because it is, I'm pretty sure it's a national, well, not a national park, but it is I can't remember the exact word for it. It means that the Saints can't alter it, right?
Like a historical park almost?
It's a historical park.
Landmark.
So it's impossible for the Saints to alter it without having to go through so many different, levels and hoops and everything. But regardless, just take into account the view.
I'd say we're in a pretty historic part of Pasadena. We have the Rose Bowl right behind us and across the street. I mean, this whole Brookside Park area has been around for a long time. Got Jackie Robinson Memorial Field here. And not too far down the road, we got JPL, the Jet Propulsion Labs. Three 3-1. Fastball catches the zone. It's a 3-2 count.
And an interesting fact, I can't remember exactly which major league team it was, but a major league franchise used to play their spring training games out here before spring training became centralized in Arizona and in Florida. They would come and play spring training out here. The field actually was reversed, so out in center field would be where home plate used to be.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
Fly ball into deep left field. Russell tracking back. He's at the wall, and that ball is out of here. A 2-run home run from Nick Belafonte. And the lead has been cut in half. It's a 7-5 ball game.
Well, Belafonte came up just a bag short of that last time. He had the triple in his last at-bat. He said, hey, I'm not letting you guys catch me with another hidden ball trick. I'm not even going to stay on the base pass this time. He leaves the ballpark, hits it out to the deepest part of the ballpark, and trots around the bases with a 2-run shot, the second 2-run shot of the game for the Foresters.
He came in only with 4 extra base hits on the season, so it's quite the breakout performance for him.
It is also his second home run on the season.
But you were mentioning the
ball down the left field line, gets past a diving Jason Gonzalez. Franklin hustling into second, standing up with a 1-out double.
You were mentioning the teams. I believe the Cubs were one of them. I can't remember the second one.
I feel like the White Sox were.
Was it both Chicago teams?
I think it might have been both
That
Chicago
would make
teams.
sense.
Now, it's interesting, I'm so used to being, the spring training teams playing in either Arizona or Florida. And you said a couple teams playing here, their spring training games long ago, and tomorrow the Saints, they travel out to Santa Barbara, and I believe the field that they're playing at is where the Angels used to play spring training games before they went out to Arizona. And that ball in the dirt catches Wyeth in not such a good spot, and he's down on the ground.
Well, he's had a rough game behind the plate so far tonight. He's been rattled a few times as the ball's hit him in the helmet multiple times, including one time he had to use his helmet just to keep the ball in front of him. So he's definitely going to have some bruises tomorrow. We'll see if he's able to power through this one.
So both Coach Milam and Togisar had come out to talk to Wyeth. We also got the athletic trainer talking to Wyeth, and I think he is signaling that he is ready to go. And he said he's been taking a beating behind the plate today.
Catchers, they get a lot of credit, but I don't think ever enough. I believe in the MLB, Francisco Cervelli used to be a catcher. I believe is retiring because in his career he has had 6 concussions behind the plate.
Jeez.
1-0 misses high and in. It's tough being a catcher. Getting foul balls hit off you all the time. You have to block pitches in the dirt. And you have protection, but it only really softens the blow.
Yeah, you have people say it's not a contact sport all the time, but being a catcher for 9 innings, 140 whatever games a season.
It also can't feel too good on your knees.
No.
Having to pop back up and out of that squat every pitch.
And while Major League Baseball, they have tried to take a few steps. That one misses for a 4-pitch walk, first and second now with 1 out. So Major League Baseball, they've tried to take steps out, taking steps to try and make the game a bit safer. They have outlawed running over a catcher, unless the rule is, if the catcher is kind of standing in the base path and you really don't have another way to go. Not saying you can just lower your shoulder and bowl them over, but that kind of contact is okay. And saw that the other day on Sunday, the Angels and Astros were facing off, play at the plate. Lucroy had kind of come out a little bit in front of the plate, and Marisnik made a split that he said he was making a split-second decision. He thought the play was going to the outside of the base path, and so he tried to go on the inside and ended up running over Jonathan Lucroy. Lucroy ended up with a concussion and a broken nose.
And now head coach Aaron Milam for the Saints once again walks out to the mound, and it could be the end of Davis's day.
And it looks like it will be. He takes the ball from him, signals to the bullpen.
Jamie Robertson will be the relief pitcher coming in for the Saints. He'll have, I believe, 1 runner in scoring position that he'll have to deal with. And only 1 down here in the top half of the 5th inning.
So a short evening for Davis as he goes just 1 full inning. Faced 7 batters. Has allowed 2 earned runs so far, though his line has not been close. He is responsible for Presno over on first and Franklin over at second.
Jamie Robertson comes in to pitch for the Saints. 14 2/3 innings with a 2.46 ERA. Big workload, low ERA, one of the more solid and consistent pitchers in the CCL.
And Robertson, he's been a go-to reliever for this Saints team. He just finished his junior season with Emory University. In that season, he appeared 10 times. He went 1-4. He had all 10 of his appearances were starts. He had a 3.93 ERA in those 10 starts, 19 walks, 37 strikeouts in 50 1/3 innings pitched. So he knows how to find the strikeout. He knows how to punch guys out. But, those earned runs really come back to bite him. He had a almost 4 ERA last year, a 4.6 the year before.
And he's got his work cut out for him again. Runners on first and second with just 1 man out for Ross Cadena. First pitch fouled off behind the plate.
And Robertson usually likes to work fairly quickly on the mound. He likes to get the ball thrown back to him, steps back on the rubber, checks the runners, and then immediately goes into his pitch once he's given the A-OK from the umpire. We'll see if he works as quickly with 2 runners that aren't his on the base pass.
Checks the runner at second. Gets a bit too on top of that fastball, misses low and inside.
And not only are these 2 runners that aren't his, but they are 2 crucial runners. If both of these guys come home, it's a tie game, and the Foresters will have clawed all the way back to tie this one up.
Fresno at first, as you just said, the tying run. Cadena at the plate, the go-ahead run. Good curveball from Robertson as Cadena well out in front.
He had Cadena look kind of foolish at the plate there. Swung through it. I don't think he was expecting breaking ball at all. I really don't. And he was sitting fastball. Once he realized it was a breaking ball, he decided, oh, I might be able to hit this one hard. Might have taken his eye off that one a little bit.
1-2 pitch goes with the curveball, but that one is hit into center field. Sounded a bit harder than the ball actually went. Scott makes the easy grab, and there are 2 outs.
Well, he squared up on it, that's for sure. I think he just got underneath the ball. He had a little bit too much lift in his swing there. And that allowed Scott to get underneath it, make the out. And like you said, now with 2 down, Robertson can take a little bit of a deep breath and a little sigh of relief, but he's still got his business to take care of on the mound.
So Blake Hall in with 2 outs. He is 1 for 2 on the evening. Reached on his fielder's choice in his first at-bat and then singled in his second. First pitch swinging at a curveball right at Christian Scott in center field. Makes the one-handed grab for the final out of the inning. So Jamie Robertson doing a good job out of the bullpen, getting the 2 batters he faces to keep Santa Barbara at bay, though they did score 2 to reduce their deficit. It is now a 7-5 ball game. Don't go anywhere in the bottom half of the 5th. I turn it over to Matt Berner, one of my broadcast partners, for the play-by-play duties.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the home half of the 5th inning as we have a new pitcher on the mound for the Santa Barbara Foresters. That is Christian Winston, wearing number 15. He comes into the game. The lefty, 6'4", 186. First pitch from him misses low and outside for ball 1. Pete Durkee at the plate. He's 1 for 2 on the day, or excuse me, he's 1 for 1. His fly out in the first inning was a sac fly, so that doesn't count as an at-bat. And then he doubled in his only other plate appearance, which was in the 3rd inning. It was an RBI double. The 1-0 misses inside for ball 2.
Yeah, the intimidation of this pitching staff continues as Winston has 10 innings pitched on the season. 0 ERA.
We'll see if the Saints can tack one on him, give him his first earned run as Durkee leads things off with a single in between first and second. It squeezes into right field. And the leadoff man is aboard. They're going to have to keep an eye on this baseball as the baseball is over there at first base, but it does end up back in the glove of Winston. And that brings up Jacob Wyeth, the catcher for the Saints. He got a little rattled in the last inning, took a ball off his neck, it looked like. But as a true trooper and a very hard worker, he's back out there. He stayed out there for the conclusion of that inning, and now he's back in for his next at-bat. Here in the home half of the fifth, he's 0 for 2. Popped out to the catcher in the first inning and struck out swinging in the third. His first pitch from Winston, he swings at but is absolutely blown away by the fastball.
And talking about before this game, we're discussing how Santa Barbara having a really dominant pitching staff, but the Saints giving them some good work. Jake Jackson came in, had a 2.14 ERA. He gave up 4 runs. Only a couple, not all of them earned. I believe it was just 2 of them earned. And then Clayton Beater, who came into this game, also had a 0 ERA. It was only 4 innings, but Saints also tacking a couple runs onto him.
Well, I think actually all the runs are charged to Jackson at this point. So I think he's charged with 4 earned runs. I could be mistaken. Might need you to double check that one. As Wyeth fouled off the 0-1, takes a hack at the 0-2. But he fails to hit that one as he goes down swinging for the second straight at bat.
Now batting, the designated hitter, number 34.
So even though
Nicholas
I just got the
Corral.
confirmation from Mitch, even though that Beater was on the mound, Jackson is charged with all 4 of those earned runs. Although, honestly, if you think about it, sometimes that rule kind of seems a little silly because it was Beater who allowed those runs to come home. Granted, it was Jackson who allowed those runners on. Either way, with 1 down, Nick Pagan steps up to the plate. The designated hitter watches the first one go in the dirt for ball 1. He is 0 for 2 on the day, despite reaching base in the third inning, struck out swinging in the second, and reached on an error in the third.
We just hit the 2-hour and 15-minute mark on this game. About halfway through. Our national anthem war is still going on. I plan on, during your guys' interview with, I believe it's Thomas Lovano.
It is Thomas Lovano in the top half of the 6th inning.
I think I might head down to the good side there and see their mindset, where they're at, maybe bring them a water, do my best Jim Day impression, and I'll come back with a report.
Got to go ahead and find out how they're doing. Check their mentality, see if they're able to keep going because this has been a long game. The 1-0 was swung on and missed by Pagan. Now Winston setting, steps off the mound. He's going to ask to throw the same exact pitch, though. Winston has his hat very low, right above his eyes. Makes it hard to read his eyeballs. Now the 1-1 low and outside breaking ball just off the plate for ball 2. Winston also wearing those pants that go all the way down to the cleats. It's a popular choice nowadays for most ball players. I was always one of the guys who like to wear them at my knees. I like to have the high socks.
That's the right decision.
The high socks are great, but stirrups are even better.
The 2-1 cracked towards second base. It squeezes into right field. Durkee is going to stop at second base as Pagan is on board with back-to-back singles not back-to-back singles. I forgot Wyeth struck out in between, but Durkee singled to lead things off. Wyeth went down swinging, and now Nick Pagan singles. So 2 singles so far this inning. Runners on first and second. And after it seemed like the Foresters were finally reversing the momentum of the game, finding their way back into it, the Saints have 2 runners on with only 1 down here in the home half of the 5th. And also, Tyler briefly alluded to it. Make sure to stick around for the top half of the 6th inning. We'll be bringing Thomas Lovano on to have a quick chat about what it's like to play as a Arroyo Seco Saint. First pitch to Wyatt Stapp. Misses low and outside breaking ball for ball 1.
And then after our interview with Thomas Lovano, Tyler will come back and give us his report of what's going on with the national anthem standoff.
So lots of good information coming your way within the next inning.
Hard-hitting stuff.
As the 1-0 fastball low and outside And Winston showing a little bit of frustration there. He's going to walk off the mound, fix his hat, brush the sweat off his forehead. Now he's got a 2-0 count on Wyatt Stapp. Stapp is 0 for 1 so far in the day. He flew out to left field in the second inning and walked in the third. He was stranded at first base, though. So now the 2-0. Winston taking a look at the runners, now delivers. Low and outside, this one gets past the catcher. Cadina's going to have to chase it down. Durkee moves up to third, takes a few steps past the bag, and will trot back. As now there are 2 runners in scoring position for the Saints with a 3-0 count to Wyatt Stapp, and still only 1 down here in the bottom of the 5th. And you got to be careful now because Stapp is that 9-hole hitter. It kind of serves as a second leadoff batter. You got Christian Scott, Evan Russell, and Drew Cowley coming up after him if the Saints can extend the inning that long. And that's a pretty good hitting part of the lineup for the Saints.
And with the 3-0 count, even if you lose Stapp, it will put a force at any base and a potential double play ball. But again, the problem with that is Christian Scott, who's on deck, has really good speed.
And so does Stapp. Stapp has some very, very nice wheels over there. He's able to run and beat out lots of plays. We'll see if his speed comes into play. Whether or not he can get on base as the 3-0 found the strike zone. Now the 3-1 from Winston. He delivers. That's in the dirt. That's ball 4. And as you alluded to earlier, it's bases loaded for Christian Scott.
Now, Matt, if you're Christian Scott, or Mitch, either one, do you look for a first pitch strike now? Because it wasn't a 4-pitch walk. It wasn't really a control issue. I'm sure that's what they're going to discuss right now, how to attack him. But what's your mentality right now as a batter?
Well, honestly, there might be a pitching change right now because that is head coach Bill Pintard going out there. Bill Pintard going out there to have a chat with his pitcher Winston. He doesn't make any immediate action towards the baseball, though, and we do have to remember that the assistant coach, Steve Shuck, was tossed from the game earlier, so it's possible this is just a strategic mound visit, having a quick chat with the pitcher. If Winston is still in the game, and I am in the position of Christian Scott right now, do I look for a first pitch strike? Yes. I'm going to say I have to imagine they're going to try and be aggressive here. Coming off of a 5-pitch walk, not a 4-pitch walk. A 4-pitch walk, you have to sit. Granted, I guess it does depend on your coach, but most coaches will want you to sit and wait for a strike to be called after a 4-pitch walk. There was a strike called in the last at-bat. So if I'm Christian Scott here, I'm looking to jump on a first-pitch fastball. Especially because, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, especially because Winston, after walking and with the bases loaded, is going to want to be trying to establish his command early in this at-bat. Now go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's all good. I was just going to say you got to kind of look, I think, for a fastball just in one spot because there's a chance he could try and get you to roll over on something. But if he does try and sneak one in, you're ready for it.
Absolutely. And it does look like after an extended talk with his pitcher, Winston, they're going to pull him from the game, and a new pitcher will come trotting in to try and get the Foresters out of this inning, limit the damage. It looks like that's number 10, Bradley Demko, but I could be mistaken. It's kind of hard to read the numbers on the front of the Foresters jersey. The stitching kind of blends in with the color of their jersey, as it is white stitching, but the numbers are just the exact same color as the jerseys. So we will see if that is indeed Bradley Demko. If not, we will let you know who the actual relief pitcher is when we come back. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for the remainder of this home half of the 5th inning. There is only 1 down, bases loaded. You're listening to Saints Baseball on YouTube Live, the broadcast home of Arroyo Seco Baseball. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. One down here in the home half of the fifth inning. Bases loaded for Christian Scott coming to the plate. And indeed, I was actually correct earlier. It is Bradley Demko taking the mound for the Foresters, and he is definitely inheriting a sticky situation right now. As I mentioned, one down, bases loaded.
Yeah, if you're the Foresters, though, I believe this is the man you want on the mound. 13 2/3 innings pitched, no earned runs, 23 strikeouts.
First pitch from Demko. He delivers a fastball right down the middle for strike one. And we talked about sitting on a first pitch strike, but that was if Winston was still in the game. You didn't have enough time to watch Demko. Granted, you did get to see warm-ups, but you never can tell, based off of warm-ups, what a pitcher can throw like. And the 0-1 is fouled off out of play down the left field line. So now, quickly, Christian Scott finds himself down 0-2, and he's going to have to shorten his swing a little bit, see if he can make some contact, put the ball in play. The worst thing you could do right now is ground into a double play. The second worst thing you could do right now is fail to put the ball in play at all. So he's looking to avoid doing both of those. The 0-2, he takes a hack. They're going to say he went around, and he goes down swinging. And there are two down now in the home half of the fifth inning. Bradley Demko already off to a solid start.
And while it's not a good at-bat from Christian Scott, it's tough when you got a guy this dominant coming out of the bullpen. He's a lefty on the mound, you're a lefty at the plate, and Demko's release is pretty deceptive. He kind of, it's like a three-quarter slot, and he hides the ball really well until he releases it, and it seemed like he's got a fastball with some late life to it.
It does definitely have some sort of, I don't even want to say rising movement, but it appears to move up in the zone after he releases the ball. It could be that weird three-quarter delivery that you're talking about. And, you know, back in my playing day, we used to call pitchers like him slingers because it looks like he's kind of like a catapult coming around. As the 1-0 is popped in the sky behind shortstop, going back, and it does not make the play is the shortstop Tucker. One run comes home, two runs come home. Nick Pagan follows Pete Durkee, as that is a 2 RBI single off the bat of Evan Russell.
Yeah, I was going to mention, we keep reading these numbers from the Foresters pitchers, and the only ones intimidated are us. The players seem, it's any other matchup. Scoring 9 runs off this dominant ball club. Huge for the Saints.
Huge for the Saints indeed. They've also given up 5 runs. There's been a total of 14 so far scored between the two teams, and that has contributed to the 2-hour, 27-minute runtime we're at right now, at about the halfway point in the game. As the first pitch to Drew Cowley finds the strike zone. Cal moves to 0-1. By the way, both of those runs that came home will be charged to Christian Winston, who only pitched a third of an inning, gave up 2 hits, walked 1, struck 1 out, and as of right now has 2 earned runs charged to him.
Winston is still responsible for Stapp at second, but Demko will be responsible for Evan Russell and any other potential batter to come to the plate this inning. So while he still has a spotless ERA, is still a chance that could change.
Well, he's got a 1-1 count right now to Drew Cowley. Cowley fouls one right back at us. I moved my head out of the way of that one. Good thing I did. Otherwise, that chain link fence might have caved. And got Evan Russell on first base. Wyatt Stapp on second. Stapp reached on a walk.
You've got one pitch of wiggle room. I imagine you try to get him to chase.
We'll see if Demko leaves the strike zone. The 2-2 runners go. Throw down to third is in time. The tag is applied. And Wyatt Stapp is gunned down. He made the third out at third, even though the Saints bring home 2, though. In the home half of the fifth inning, they move the score to 9-5. They have a 4-run lead as we head to the top half of the sixth inning. Don't go anywhere. You listen to Saints Baseball on YouTube Live, the broadcast home of Arroyo Seco Baseball. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the top half of the 6th inning. Both teams put up 2 runs in the 5th, so the score line reads 9-5 in favor of the Arroyo Seco Saints. And joining us in the booth, Thomas Lovano has come to take a seat with us, have a little chat. Thomas, how are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been a fairly long game, and kind of impressed that the bullpens are still standing along those out of play lines, as the first pitch to Connor McKenna is lined right back up the middle for a single. Now, Thomas, I actually just found out today, so this is real fresh on my mind. I just learned that you had Tommy John.
Mm-hmm.
That was last summer?
That was last summer, about a year ago, maybe a week ago from today, about a year.
And how was that recovery process? How was it challenging? What challenges did you face?
Yeah, it's definitely been a grind. I mean, we have to be real smart with how I use my arm. That's why I've been DHing. I've never DH'd before in my life until I got here, so I usually play third base, so having to DH has been new, and that's definitely helping the recovery process. I go through my throwing program every day. Some days I have an off day, and on those days I usually DH, so I don't use my arm that much. And playing second base lately has been helping me because it really not that much stress on my elbow as well.
I was about to say, a smart decision to move over to second base, much shorter of a throw instead of having to throw across that diamond.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as a position player, converted to DH, not permanently obviously, but
Right.
doing it during the recovery process, how hard is it to stay active and involved in the game as a designated hitter? How hard is it to stay ready to go for your next at bat?
If you were asking me that when I was a little bit younger, I would say crazy hard, just because I tend to let things get in my head, carry at bat over to at bat. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of learned to turn the page and learn from one mistake and try to make sure it doesn't happen next at bat. And I think what's definitely helped is me packing fat lunches every day. So I take an at bat, and then I go inside, I slap a sandwich, and then I get ready for my next one.
Well, talk about not carrying your last at bat over. Tevin Tucker gets a single, maybe a little help. Well, definitely a little help from the bounce as it hit the lip of the grass, leapt over Drew Cowley over there at shortstop and into left field. It moved Connor McKenna all the way over to third, so there's runners on the corner with no one down here in the top half of the 6th inning. I just said runners on the corner, but I take that back as Tucker now advances to second base. I'm going to imagine they're going to rule that one defensive indifference, though, as there was no throw from Jacob Wyeth.
So last night, you played in the CCL prospect game. Now, what was that whole experience like?
That was an absolute blast. That was my first all-star game, really, anything like that. And to get out there and be around a bunch of guys from all over the country and with a variety of unbelievable talents, that was just really kind of a blessing to just be around those guys and be considered among one of the better players in the league. That was a lot of fun.
You said that's your first kind of all-star game thing. I can't imagine you mean Little League, too, right?
I think I might have made one Little League all-star team. Really, I mean, yeah, that's got to be the first or second.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's got to be a really cool experience for you.
Yeah. I was very, very happy to be there.
What was your biggest takeaway? What was your favorite thing?
Well, my favorite thing was just being able to play the entirety of the game and being one of the only players there to do so. I mean, that was a real honor. I mean, typically you go to those things and you expect to play 1 or 2 innings with 1 or 2 at-bats, and to be one of the only guys, myself and Andy Garriola included, to play the entirety of the game was just a real special honor.
So we were talking, when you came over, just kind of asking about your day. You mentioned going to Chick-fil-A for lunch. Now, the question we tend to always ask when we've got a player on.
Oh, wow.
As a run comes home to score. A sac fly to Christian Scott. The throw comes in, not in time, a little too high for Wyeth to handle. Both runners advance. Tucker moves over to third. McKenna comes home to score. And the scoreline now moves to 9-6 in favor of the Saints. All right, sorry about that, Mitch.
No, it's all good. So one of the questions we like to ask is, if you could have like one meal or pregame meal for the rest of your career, what would it be?
Steak. Absolutely steak. A huge steak and potatoes guy, so I would go maybe a Charleston steak, New York style, New York cut, mashed potatoes, I'm hesitant to say double mash because I like mac and cheese also.
Okay. All right.
Okay,
So-
okay.
That would be my ideal meal before a game, but today was Chick-fil-A.
You're speaking my language right now. I'm really loving that meal. We had a really good chat with Thomas McCarthy a couple weeks back, and he explained to us this delicious burger that he always used to go get with his parents up in Northern California, and that got my mouth watering. You know, you mentioned steak now, and all I've got is a bag of Chex Mix and some Gatorade to munch on, and this has been a long game, Thomas.
You know what? I got my refrigerator in the dugout. I'd be more than happy to get a sandwich.
The chopper right back to Robertson. He's got Tucker stranded between third and home. The throw back to third. Tucker stumbles. Now the throw to Wyeth. He's going to have to look down at second. And Robertson finally applies the tag on Tucker. Even though he was stranded between third and home, he did a good job keeping the Saints busy enough for Baker to advance to second base. So with 2 down, there will be a runner in scoring position. That's Baker on second for Nick Bellafronto, who in the 3rd inning tripled and then got called out because of the hidden ball trick pulled by Jason Gonzalez, and then homered in the 5th inning. So we'll see what he can do there. So, Thomas, we touched on your favorite pregame meal. We touched on everything like that. What made you choose coming to play for the Arroyo Seco Saints?
Yeah, I played in the Northwoods the last 2 summers, and I've kind of played in the Midwest the last 3 years. So to get back to California, where I'm from, was a huge priority for me. So I called all sorts of teams, and because of the whole Tommy John thing, finding a team to play for was real difficult. So Coach Milam actually coached at my old high school the year after I was there. So I had his number. I don't even know how I got his number. So I had his number in my phone for some reason. I called him and called him and called him and pestered and said, hey, I just need a chance to play, need a chance to get some at-bats. I really didn't care if I got to play the field or not. And he basically told me, look, if a spot opens up, I'll give you a call. You're the first one I'll call, and we'll see what happens. And, yeah, so things kind of worked out.
I'm pretty sure they've been glad to have you. You've been tearing it up this summer.
Yeah.
I was about to say, I'm sure they're glad a spot opened up. I mean, you made the CCL Prospects game, and as you mentioned, you're one of the 2 Saints that got to play the whole game.
Mm-hmm.
And you've definitely been putting up the numbers and playing some pretty decent defense out there in the field as well, I must say.
Yeah.
So, Thomas, that actually brings about the end of the top half of the 6th inning. The Foresters added 1 to their scoreline. The score now reads 9-6 in favor of the Saints. We'd like to thank you for coming on the broadcast.
Thanks for having me.
We really appreciate you coming on and talking with us. We're going to head to the home half of the 6th inning now. Don't go anywhere. You listen to Saints Baseball on YouTube Live, the broadcast home of Arroyo Seco Baseball. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the home half of the 6th inning. We just had Thomas Lovano with us on the broadcast. Good talk with him. As now Drew Cowley gets his second chance at this plate appearance. It's a new pitcher on the mound for the Foresters. That is Nico O'Donnell, I believe. Number 11. 6'5", 210 pounds, out of the University of Texas.
Yeah, 15 innings for O'Donnell on the season. 1.8 ERA. So the hits keep coming with these Forester pitchers. Now, if you don't mind, I did go down there.
Please give us the news.
What's the report?
I hung out with them down there on the line. It is a 2 versus 1 right now, as during that inning. Somebody backed out for the Foresters. There's no sign of giving up. I asked about every opportunity. Bathroom breaks, they're fine. If it's a foul ball, they said they'll wear it. I can confirm if there's a ball, they will not run out. They will, in fact, stay there.
Wow.
If it comes to the point where game is over and they're still here, they will stay until their team has to get on the bus and leave.
Nice.
That's dedication.
Dedication. And the great part about it is because Saints, the home team, their bus will probably be much later than the Foresters' bus. Usually the visiting team gets out of here pretty quickly.
Yeah, we talked about strength in numbers, too, because if you look down on the Foresters, poor guy, I know you can't see it on the monitor, but there's just one guy.
He's standing by himself with his head down.
There's not even anybody around him. He is talking to himself right now.
What is he even looking at?
You know what?
Is he counting the blades of grass?
I believe he's looking at his light flash before his eyes. I think that's what's happening. And then if you look down to our side, we have 2.
As the 2-2 to Cowley gets past the catcher. Cadena lets it roll past and go right in front of me again.
Yeah, we have 2 national anthem warriors down there. And it's Colin King. And actually, I didn't talk to the other one. So I actually don't know. But Colin King is down there. Turns out I know his cousin. But anyway, besides the point. They said that. They have Hayden Harris down there with them sitting, talking to them throughout. They have friends down there. Well, Foresters. I wish you guys could see it.
It's one guy and everyone else is just sitting behind him.
God bless him.
They've just kind of let him go.
I told them if they need a pizza ordered, I'm their guy. Let me know.
The full count pitch to Cowley misses, so he's on board with a leadoff walk.
Now batting, right fielder, number 9,
Andy Garriola coming up to the plate. And actually, we're going to see if we can adjust the camera angle so we can show you guys the National Anthem Warriors of the Santa Barbara Foresters.
Yeah, I think it's going to be way too difficult to
maybe
go down the left field line, but to see our guys. But first base line should be possible.
We're going to see if Mitch, our multi-talented broadcaster, can get you the camera angle. As the first pitch to Garriola misses for ball 1. Takes a swing at the 1-0 and misses. I'm not sure if you can see on your screen, a second guy has now stepped up and is now giving a back massage to the final Forester player remaining on that line.
Oh, Mitch, that's perfect.
Fantastic zoom in by Mitch as the 1-1 to Garriola finds the strike zone. We're going to get you back to the action now.
Good work, Mitch.
So once again, the National Anthem war is still going on, still going strong, and Garriola has a 1-2 count.
And there is communication as the one player standing does know Zachary Griggs, one of our pitchers, and they're all on the phone every couple of innings, so we have communication between each other.
So there is communication going on between the two sides. Talking it out.
I got to say, that was perfect timing with the back rub.
You nailed that.
The 1-2 to Garriola cracked right back at shortstop. Tucker fields it over to second, over to first. That's a double play, and there are 2 down now in the home half of the 6th.
We'll reference that Of course, the one time they decided to do this, it was a 3-hour game in the 6th inning.
Yeah, honestly, it is at 2 hours and 47 minutes.
Now
And we are only
third
in the
base,
home half of the 6th
number
inning.
16, Jason
If the Saints manage to hold on to their lead, that would mean they wouldn't have to bat in the home half of the 9th inning, which would leave us with exactly, let's see, 2.5 innings, right, including the next out. So we've still got plenty of baseball to play. The Foresters only down 3 runs, 9-6 is the score. And Jason Gonzalez at the plate. He's worked a full count in every single at-bat so far. He struck out swinging in 2 of them, though, once in the first, once in the 4th, and he singled and came around to score in the 3rd. So now with a 1-0 count, he takes a hack, chops this one foul, and he's got a chance to go for the full count once again as he'll walk back towards the batter's box.
It was pretty funny when I asked them about the brawl situation. There was a moment of hesitation. They looked at each other, and they turned around and they said, Hayden, referring to Hayden Harris, we had a good question. And they all discussed it for a little bit. So I'm happy I was able to bring it up to them. You know, you never know.
What was their final?
What are they going to say? They will not run out, no matter what.
The 1-1 cut on almost catches the light as it goes past the light pole behind the Foresters dugout. That would have been a cool scene out of The Natural.
I was about to mention The Natural.
What a film.
Fantastic film.
A bit less dramatic happening on a foul ball, but
That's actually my dad's favorite baseball movie.
that might be my
It's-
dad's favorite as well. I can confirm he is here at the ballpark. So
To be honest, I feel like I can't put it over The Sandlot because for
That's
me,
fair.
that's just the movie I grew up on.
I think I'd have to do the same.
But-
I'd have to have The Sandlot on
The
top.
Natural's
But The
down there for
Natural
me. There's
is
four.
it's up there.
I think it's 4 or 5 for me on the list.
So Gonzalez watches the 1-2, bounce in the dirt for ball 2, and he's just 1 ball away from his 4th full count of the game. And I gotta be honest with you, the full count watch is very entertaining.
It's close to getting it.
O'Donnell sets, delivers out of the stretch. Breaking ball just off the plate. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Jason Gonzalez with his 4th full count of the game in 4 at-bats. And he has done a marvelous job. I know he's fouled off a few pitches as well, but he's seen at the very least, he has seen 24 pitches.
And he will be up again, most likely. Well, maybe not, but if he is, it'll be interesting to see. As-
Takes a hack at that one, and it's skied out of play down the right field line. So we'll do the dance again.
That's one of those stats that I wish Tim Kirchin was here with us, because I'm sure he would know off the top of his head the last time a player has had 4 full counts in one game.
Well, I can say an interesting thing that happened in Monday's game was the leadoff batter for the Blues had 5 singles. He was 5 for 5 with the second hitter for the Blues as the 3-2 this time misses high and inside for ball 4, and Gonzalez is on board. That moves Cowley over to second, Cowley was erased in the double play. Just ignore my comment there.
Yeah. Fair play.
Now batting.
Absolutely
First base,
fantastic job
number
from Jason
32,
Gonzalez in
Heath
all 4 of his at-bats. But I will say, he is one of the reasons why this game has been drawing out.
You know, it's funny you should mention that. On the way over there to talk to Colin King and those guys, down on the line, Matt Thomas was catching ball play, and he asked me, are we running out of things to talk about? Because he knows it's been a long game. I said, it's getting a little tough, but there's always content with the baseball. With the Saints here at Jackie Robinson Memorial Field.
That's very true. We've touched on a little bit of the history here. We've touched on the national anthem battle going on. We've had a few extracurricular activities and a few ejections. Or I believe only 1 ejection so far, actually. First pitch to Durkee found the strike zone. Now the 0-1 he takes, and I'm not entirely sure where that one missed, but it's called a ball, so the count's even at 1.
I think maybe the only thing I have yet to witness at a Saints game would be a fan ejection. I've yet to see that. I would never want that, but it's one of the things that could come at any moment based on past events.
The 1-1 low and inside for ball 2. And you know what? I've got to just say one last time. These gentlemen standing down the line have been standing on their feet, not moving, for almost 3 hours, 2 hours and 53 minutes.
Shoes are off as well, so they're in for the long haul.
This is absolutely insane. Their legs are definitely going to be sore. As now the 2-1 misses for ball 3 inside. Well, maybe not sore, but definitely stiff.
It's actually really even been a few minutes more, not by much, because this is time since first pitch, and they've been out since the national anthem, which was before warming up of the first pitch.
Technicalities might make it an even 3 hours right now.
Chopper over the head of the first baseman, going towards 3, and now rounding the bag, but stopping there is Gonzalez. As Durkee is on board with a double, it brings Gonzalez over to third base, and there are 2 runners in scoring position. Now for the catcher, Jacob Wyeth, with 2 down here in the home half of the 6th. The Saints still have that 9-6 lead that I've mentioned a few times so far this inning, but Wyeth has the chance to pad onto it, make it a little bit safer of a cushion. We're going to time out here. It's not the head coach. It is another assistant coach for the Foresters. I'm going to take a guess and say that that is assistant coach Skylar Ellis.
And real quick, this is the perfect time. I mentioned that to the guys down there. I will order pizza if they need be. I just got confirmation from one of our managers, Tom Stafford. They will be ordering a pizza for our guys down at the National Anthem standoff.
That is awesome.
Well, here at Arroyo Seco, we support our staff and our players.
Support our troops.
That's right.
Even if it means you need to run to Domino's. Either way, there's a meeting going on the mound, and while that's happening, head coach Aaron Milam's having a quick chat with the umpire.
Now, talking about pizza and talking with Thomas Lovano
About steak.
and just it got me thinking about it. It's been getting me thinking about food. It's been a long game. I'm getting hungry, but I'm gonna make myself hungrier by keep talking about it. Pizza. What's your go-to?
You can't really go wrong with pizza. I'm going to be honest with you. You really can't. I'll eat most types of pizza. Just don't put anchovies on it. And I'm right there for you.
Fair game. Now, but what about location? You a Domino's guy with the garlic Parmesan crust?
I am
you
a Domino's guy.
cheese stuffed crust guy?
I'm a big Domino's guy. I love that crust.
I would have to agree with you. I haven't had a cheese stuffed crust pizza in the longest time. But Domino's, they do it right.
They do it right. They've definitely figured out. They've definitely figured it out as the first pitch to Wyeth is in the dirt for ball 1. You know, we've talked a couple times about, food. And that brings it back to the fact that Thomas McCarthy, before the game, when we were talking with him in our interview a couple weeks back, he told us about the burger. We talked to Thomas and told him about it. Before the game, he said, "Hey, my dad went to that restaurant and he ordered the burger and sent me a picture." He said, you have to show the broadcast crew. So we got to see that infamous burger, and I gotta be honest, it lives up to its reputation.
It was something that looked quite fantastic.
So the 1-0 is rolled over towards second base. Cash fields it, throws over to Fresno, and that will end the home half of the 6th inning. We'll head to the top of the 7th. Score remains 9-6 in favor of the Saints. Don't go anywhere. You listen to Saints Baseball on YouTube Live with Tyler Roop, Mitch LaFave, and Matt Berner, the broadcast home of Arroyo Seco Baseball. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Christian Franklin to the plate to lead things off for the Foresters. They're down 3 runs. Jamie Robertson still on the mound for the Saints. His first pitch is a breaking ball that just forgot to break, and he left it too high for ball 1.
So the Foresters, they are down 3, though they have scored in each of the last 3 innings. They scored 1 in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, and then 1 in the previous inning.
Definitely starting to figure out how to put some runs on the board, as the 1-0 found the strike zone, then the 1-1 misses. It might have missed just a little too far inside. I've alluded to this small strike zone multiple times, and I think that might be contributing to this long game, or long run time of this game, as the 2-1 is swung on and missed.
There have been some long at-bats with pitches just missing out of the zone. I feel like that's been the case with a couple of Jason Gonzalez's at-bats.
The 2-2 that time finds the strike zone, and that'll send Franklin down looking. He has struck out now twice in the game. It moves him to 1 for 3 on the day, but he's reached base twice. He walked in the first inning and doubled in the 5th. But now, thanks to that strikeout looking, he's got 2 Ks on the night, and Zach Presno comes up to the plate. He is 0 for 2 with he reached on a walk in the 5th inning.
Another interesting aspect that I think the people at home would find interesting when I was down there. What are the rules of the this very now infamous?
The 1-0 is chopped high in the air. Garriola going back, looking up. This one is out of here. And Zach Presno leaves the ballpark, parks it in the tree out there in right field. And that brings the Foresters up to 7 runs. The lead is now 2 for the Saints. The Foresters leave the ballpark for the 3rd time tonight. The first 2 were 2-run shots. That time, just a solo shot. Garriola was watching it, and the home run hit the netting in right field, bounced off, ended up back in the ballpark. Garriola picked it up and threw it as far as he could over the netting. I don't think we'll be seeing that baseball again. And with another hard hit, first pitch swinging down the left field line, that'll 2-hop the wall. Going back to field it is Russell. He'll have to pick it up, but getting in easily with a stand-up double is Ross Cadena, the catcher, and there's another runner in scoring position. Like I mentioned, that now brings up the tying run to the plate. And you said it, the Foresters are starting to figure out how to hit the ball.
And I think because of that, Coach Toe just going out to the mound, talk things over with Robertson. 2 hard hit balls on consecutive pitches. I think just kind of going out there to calm him down. You know, he's probably going to be the one that they want to work out of this jam and just kind of, figure things out.
I got to be honest with you, I can't imagine the Saints coaching staff is going to be too happy with Andy Garriola after he threw that ball away, after, all that talk about we chase down every foul ball. Every foul ball we go and get, our awesome operations interns here, they stay ready to go all game long. Not only do they do that, they set up and take down all the stuff before and after the games, but they stay involved all game long chasing every foul ball. And they're a big reason why we're able to keep playing baseball here in Pasadena.
And we've seen moments of frustration from Garriola. He'll snap the bat a couple times in batting practice and throwing that one over the netting. Now what would have been probably pretty funny is if in frustration.
That one's lined in the left field. It'll drop. Rounding third, but getting the stop sign. Holding at third is Cadena. Advancing to second on the throw home, though, is Hall. And Blake Hall gets a single, but moves over to second base on the throw. And the tying run is now in scoring position at second base with Connor McKenna coming up to the plate, who singled in his last at-bat. Now, you mentioned some moments of frustration at Garriola. You got to love the passion that he plays with. He loves to win. He loves to win, and he hates to lose. And you'll see him, performing to his utmost, his best at all times, and he holds himself to a high standard. You mentioned him snapping his bat a few times. One time in batting practice, as McKenna fouls off the first pitch to him. One time in batting practice, he didn't have a round up to his standards, I guess. Walked over, snapped his bat over his knee like it was just a twig. I mean, he made it look incredibly easy. And I asked him, hey, what'd the bat do to you? He said, well, it snapped on me. As this one gets past Wyeth, Robertson comes home to cover, but coming in easy to score is Cadena. It's a one-run ball game, and there's a runner standing 90 feet away from tying it up. Anyways, Garriola, I asked him, what'd that bat do to you? He said, well, the bat snapped on me, so I got to snap it back. And I got to be honest, I think that might be my favorite Andy Garriola quote of all time. I just love the passion that the guy plays with.
Now, I think what I was...
The 1-1 cracked into left field. That gets between Gonzalez and Cowley. And coming home to score is Hall, and this game is all tied up at 9. Some run from the Foresters dugout, letting the Saints players know how they truly feel. They say, you absolutely blew it. As the Saints blow this lead, it is now 9-9. It was 9-6 in this inning. And you know what? A tie game right after I had mentioned if the Saints could hold on to their lead. Broadcaster's jinx comes right back at me again. And that brings up Tevin Tucker, who has already left the ballpark once today. Robertson's first pitch, low and inside. Good effort by Wyeth to keep that one in front. Tucker 2 for 3 on the day. He homered a 2-run home run in the second inning, struck out swinging in the fourth, and then singled and was stranded on third last inning. Now with a 1-0 count, tie ball game, and Connor McKenna on first base. Tucker shows bunt again. This one misses low and inside for the second straight pitch, and it's a 2-0 count. So Robertson really struggling right now. Only has 1 out here in the top half of the 7th inning. We have just hit the 3-hour, 5-minute mark of this one as the 2-0 finds the strike zone. It brushes on that inside part of the plate. Tucker tried to sell it by lifting his bat up, but was unable to get the call in his favor. So it's 2-1.
You know, we talk about Andy Garriola antics on and off the field, but plays with a burning passion.
The 2-1 gets past Wyeth, goes to the backstop, advancing to second base is Tevin Tucker. And real quick before I let you get back to that story, Tyler, if we were playing by those new rules in the Atlantic Division, Tucker would be standing on first right now. All right, go ahead, Tyler.
No, I was just going to say, it reminds me a little bit of Yasiel Puig. And just the way that the intensity, and I don't know how you guys feel about Puig. Personally, I love the guy. Some of his stuff is questionable, but the off-the-field antics, mixed with how hard he plays, reminds me of one Puig.
And it has nothing to do with the fact he's standing in right field right now, which is Puig's primary position. The 3-1 was fouled off out of play, so the count is full now. We've seen plenty of full counts so far this game. Tevin Tucker, the shortstop, wearing number 2.
So you say you love Puig, but really, is that only changed since he became a Reds player?
Absolutely. 100%.
3-2, chopper over towards Cowley. He fields it, throws over to first. It's high and gets past Durkee. Coming home to score is McKenna. And Tevin Tucker forces a high throw out of Cowley. He will move over to second base. And the Foresters take the lead 10-9 in the top half of the 7th inning. And this is a very, very crushing collapse for the Saints. I mean, not only have they endured so long in this game, they had the lead the entire game up until now. 4 runs in this 7th inning for the Foresters, and they still only have 1 out. They can add on to this newfound lead. First pitch to Ryan Cash is fouled off out of play.
And really, for the most part in this game, the Saints had at least been playing really good defense, hadn't made an error. And that's something we've talked about in the past, that they've struggled with, and
Middle infield, too.
that one error from Cowley not only gave up the lead, but can really cost them a lot more runs.
And even if the throw didn't beat Tucker, McKenna was not going to score on that play unless the ball got past Durkee, and Durkee, trying to stay on the bag, wasn't able to reach up and grab it. As the 1-1 misses inside, almost catches a piece of Cash's jersey, but he misses him completely, so it's 2-1 now, the count.
And surely Robertson, he's been struggling out there for a while now. I'm surprised that there's not been a, at least a catcher meeting.
And I think right now he's just kind of frustrated, letting these last few at-bats really get to him.
Yeah, this is a moment you really gotta go talk to the guy, I would imagine.
3-1 to Cash, finds the strike zone. He took off for first base. Now we'll have to walk back. Cash is the one who, I believe, had some choice words for the umpire after a strikeout in the 5th inning.
He got, almost 10 feet down the line. So umpire probably not too happy about that.
3-2. And I thought that pitch was in the exact same location as the last one, but it must have been a little too far off the plate. Ball 4, and Ryan Cash is on board. There's 2 runners on with still only 1 out here. And head coach Aaron Milam's going to go out there, have a chat, and probably make a pitching change. Now I'm going to go back to the error by Cowley. Yes, it was an errant throw. Yes, the throw was high. I'm not going to fault Durkee for being the height that he is, but if he had a couple more inches, he makes that play. That being said, as a former first baseman myself, it kind of pained me to watch Durkee try and stay on the bag and get that out, because they teach you to always keep the ball in front of you.
The ball is what's important.
Exactly. So if Durkee leaps up, makes that play, the run might not have come home. Granted, Robertson struggling just massively on the mound. Well, it didn't look like he was going to find his way out of the inning regardless. And the pitcher that's going to come in to replace him is number 44, Justin Kleinsorge. We're going to see if he can get out of the inning. But that being said, the fault is not just on Cowley. The fault there is on both players involved in the play. And either way, the Foresters have put up 4 in this 7th inning. We're going to take a short timeout as we let Justin warm up on the mound. Don't go anywhere. You listen to Saints Baseball on YouTube Live, the broadcast home of Arroyo Seco Baseball.
Number 4.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Justin Kleinsorge ready to take on the Foresters as they have climbed all the way back, tied the game up, and even taken the lead. One thing that is still going on, one battle that is still going on and very tight, is that national anthem battle. The player that was receiving the back massage down there, down the right field line, is still standing strong. And he's refusing to go down for the Foresters as they've rallied as a team. And as I mentioned, taking a 10-9 lead with 2 runners on. Tucker takes off for third. The ball in the dirt gets past Wyeth. Tucker turns. He's going to come home and score easily. And advancing to third is Cash. And it kind of feels like the wheels are starting to come off the cart here for the Saints. Drew Baker watches the first pitch bounce in the dirt, goes past Jacob Wyeth behind the plate. Ryan Cash gets to move all the way to third, and Tevin Tucker, who took off on the pitch, immediately rounds third, heads home, standing up, is able to get in there, and they move their lead to 11-9 with a possible third insurance run standing there on third base.
Yeah, Justin Klein-George comes in with 14 2/3 innings pitched and a 6.75 ERA, but it's worth noting because of that last one, he does lead the team in wild pitches, now with 7.
1-0, he overcorrects there and finishes too high.
And not to draw any attention away from the game, but real quick, something I want to mention, those brave souls on the line, underrated part of that standoff, their arm has to be over their heart with their hat the entire time, otherwise they will not count it. So their arms have been in that position for now 3 hours and 15 minutes about.
And
Underrated part of that.
the thing about it, it could very well end really in a stalemate because
The 2-1 popped up. It'll stay in play. Durkay going back, makes the grab. The throw comes home as Cash took off towards the plate. Tagging up. The throw is able to get there in time, though, and Cash has to jog back to third base.
And you know, Mitch, I would agree with you, but they mentioned they have to go home before we have to go home. The Saints have to go home. So they will stay out there for as long as possible.
Well, I was just saying, because we were made aware during the break while Kleinsford was warming up that these lights here, they're automatic. They will shut off at 10. So I guess if they're going to count it even when the lights shut off until each team individually has to go home, the Saints will have at least that victory.
That's right. There are 2 games going on right now. One has to end.
But both will probably come to a conclusion when the lights turn off. As Nick Bellafronto comes up to the plate, he's the 9th batter to bat in this inning. 2 down here in the top half of the 7th inning. The Foresters have struck for 5 runs. That one is fouled off and goes to the backstop. They've struck for 5 runs, taken a 2-run lead. And they are refusing to let up as they have stayed active on the base pass. We mentioned Tevin Tucker taking off first pitch on Justin Kleinsford, made it all the way home thanks to the wild pitch. Ryan Cash tried to tag up on that foul ball that was caught by Pete Durkay. The 1-1's a breaking ball that ends up at the head of Nick Bellafronto. So that moves the count to 2-1. The Saints have just absolutely collapsed in this inning.
Yeah, 5 runs, including the error from Cali earlier, has really put them on the back foot. And as we were saying, with the lights turning off at 10, it's 9:30 right now, and there's really a good chance that we're not going to be able to completely finish this ball game because we still have at least 2.5 more innings. Or if we don't have to go to a bottom of the 9th, that means the Saints will have to score at least 3 more in either the bottom of the 7th or the bottom of the 8th. And I feel like by that time, it will have reached 10 o'clock. It'll have happened in the next 28 minutes. So, and this game would have to resume, I think they said next Wednesday,
when the Foresters come back here.
And Mitch, I was wondering, do you have the stat for amount of pitches thrown during this game so far? Just curious.
I do.
Well, while you look at that one, let's say Bellafronto walked. So that officially means the Foresters have batted around here, which means I have to make some adjustments to my scorebook, unfortunately. That brings up Christian Franklin, who led the inning off by striking out. He struck out looking. First pitch to him was inside. Wyeth has to kind of stand up in order to recover after catching that one. Franklin 1 for 3 on the day. Walked in the first, doubled in the fifth.
Yeah, we just had confirmation. There has now been...
That one's chopped into right field. Coming forward is Garriola to field it. One run comes home to score, though, and Franklin's got an RBI single as the score now moves to 12-9 in favor of the Foresters.
There have been 316 pitchers thrown in this game.
Yeah, that single was the 316th pitch in this game. 162 from the Saints and 154. Quick math. From the Foresters.
Yeah, and if you're not too familiar with baseball, just know that that's a lot.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of pitches to be in the seventh inning. Klein Sorge delivers the first pitch to Zach Presno, who homered. He hit a solo shot earlier this inning. That feels so long ago at this point, but that was at the beginning of this inning. Now the 0-1 in the dirt for ball one.
Feels like yesterday.
And that is, while that is a ton of pitches thrown in this ball game, reminds me of, I believe it was just over 40 years ago, Nolan Ryan he pitched, I believe, 14 innings in a game, in a single game, did not factor in the decision. Or no, he did. Can't remember if he came out an inning before the Angels. He was pitching for the Angels at the time. I don't know if he had come out an inning before they walked it off. But he had 19 strikeouts, and he walked 10 batters, and I think half of those had a full count on them.
Jeez.
And doing all the math, they said pitch counts were not an official stat at that point, but the pitching coach had one of those handheld clickers, and he had something along the lines of like 250 pitches thrown.
Well, the 1-2 to Presno finds the strike zone, and Klein Sorge sends him down looking. And that brings about the end of the long-lasting top half of the seventh inning, where the Foresters strike for 6 runs. They bring home 6, and they take over a 3-run lead as they now lead 12-9 as we head to the home half of the seventh inning. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back for that. It's stretch time here at Jackie Robinson Memorial Field. Don't go anywhere. Once again, you're listening to Saints Baseball on YouTube Live, the broadcast home of Arroyo Seco Baseball. Connor Curry on the mound for the Foresters as we go into the home half of the 7th inning. Just a reminder, the lights do turn off here automatically at 10 p.m. There was an announcement, no new inning after 9:50. As the first pitch to Pagan is inside for ball 1. We were just informed by one of our operations interns, Ryan Winters. He said that the Foresters do not come back here for the rest of the season, so they'd have to literally travel back out here for 2 innings to conclude this game. As Pagan fouls off the 1-0.
I would think that maybe they would have just, Saints go up to Santa Barbara and play the Foresters on Saturday.
Yeah, before
Say
the
maybe
game.
just do that before the game, but I guess we were told that the Foresters, the remainder of this game would be played next Wednesday. So,
Well, it would make a lot more sense to whenever they play next, but
The 1-1 found the strike zone, so Pagan's got a 1-2 count. And things are already being packed up here at Jackie Robinson Memorial Field. It's been a long game. It's been a very long game, 3 hours, 25 minutes so far. As the 1-2 is low and outside for ball 2. Yes, I know, 3 hours, 25 minutes. That doesn't sound that long. If it was a 9-inning game, right? we are in the 7th inning with no outs in the home half.
yeah, so not even through 7.
As the 2-2 is low for ball 3. That's another full count. Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen plenty of those so far tonight. And the Saints doing themselves no favors by holding out the counts, although I guess the game's just going to get picked up regardless at this point as the full count pitch is chopped off. And Pagan will get to do this dance one more time. He has a little smile on his face as he walks back towards the batter's box.
I really wasn't expecting this game to go this long.
No.
It has gone so long that at first pitch it was, I think it was around 85 degrees. And I just checked during the break. 72 is what it's at now. So 13
Quite the
degrees the
drop-off.
temperature has dropped.
I am so glad I packed my jacket. When I showed up at the ballpark, it was 3 p.m. It was still hot. It was like 90 plus
it was
degrees.
Close to 90.
The 3-2 chopped into center field, coming forward and making the shoestring grab. It's Christian Franklin who showed off his range there. Pagan robbed of a base hit. He's going to have to trot back in, grab his own bat, though, as there's one down now in the bottom half of the 7th.
That's also another underrated part of the standoff. They're out there for a while in the heat.
Yeah.
Wyatt Staff.
It's hard to appreciate now, but that must have been.
Well, that's an example of why Colin King has the advantage. When we talked to him at Cal Lutheran, way back at the beginning of the season, I asked him what weather he liked pitching in the most. He said he loved pitching in like 100-degree weather. So being from Arizona, he loves the heat, and he's thriving out there. He's still standing along those lines. By the way, that battle's still going on.
Any eyes on a pizza box?
I cannot see a pizza box. Count is 0-1 now to Stapp as he check swings at that one, but it finds the strike zone 0-2.
And I'm sure if it hasn't showed up yet, when it does, the sole man down the right field line will look over in probably some jealousy as he's got nothing to help himself out.
The 0-2 is a chopper over towards Cash at second. He fields, cleanly throws it over to first, and that is out number 2.
I was asked if we should order an anchovy pizza, and I haven't sent down for that guy. But on the off chance that that's his favorite kind, I said probably not.
Now, what if that was his favorite kind?
Oh, that's
You
a
realize-
morale killer for us.
No, but you realize the hospitality of the Saints would be through the roof then.
That's true.
We
It's a
supply
win-win.
pizza for both teams.
It's a win-win.
It would.
That's for sure.
But the thing about it is, it's supposed to be like, haha, this is a joke, and then it would end up being, oh wow,
They're
we're
so
way
nice.
too nice.
Yep.
First pitch to Christian Scott finds the outside corner of the strike zone. This is his 5th plate appearance of the night in the 7th inning as the 0-1 misses low and inside for ball 1. That's another thing. The high-scoring nature of this game has definitely contributed to the total run time.
It's approaching the record for a Saints game this season of 25 runs scored.
Well, we're at 21 right now. As Scott watches the 1-1 breaking ball that drops right into the strike zone, and he just has to nod his head no after that one. So he's got a 1-2 count. Scott is 1 for 4 on the day. He singled and came home to score in the first, but since then has yet to reach the base paths. The 1-2 inside, ball 2.
And you have to imagine with this game situation, if you're the batter, any close call right now is probably going to go the pitcher's way. I would assume.
You would think that had happened in the previous inning, or Cash walked down the line before the pitch was called, as he thought it was ball 4, and the next pitch was in probably, we thought, the same spot. And usually in that case, the umpire
Would ring
for
him up.
the batter showing him up the previous pitch would bring him up, and instead he let him trot down to first.
3-2, or excuse me, yes, 3-2. Swung on and missed. It's caught by Cadena. I think they're going to actually call the game. They are going to call that game.
It's not the final.
Not the official final score.
Later day, they will be determined later on.
As the game will be continued later on in the week.
Somebody don't move kid down to the right field.
And there are still players standing on each of the lines. They refuse to cave in.
I'm telling you, they made it very, very clear to me. No matter what, they will wait until that team has to go home.
Well, no matter what, they indeed are waiting. As we're calling this game, we're going to have to continue for the remaining 2 innings. I guess Wednesday. It is now 9:45, which means those 7 innings, ladies and gentlemen, if you listened all the way through with us, you got to hear our beautiful voices for 3.5 hours exactly. 3.5 hours to get through 7 innings, and they're not even done with this game. It'll be continued at a later date. The score, as of the moment, is 12-9 in favor of the Foresters, and I imagine that score will hold up for a few days. So we'd like to thank everyone who made this broadcast possible. We will be back and inform you guys when the game will be continued. We'll be back to tell you what happens and see if the Saints can come back from down 12-9. Once again, thank you everyone who made this broadcast possible, and thank you everyone who tuned in. For Tyler Roop and Mitch LaFave, I'm Matt Berner saying good night.